You think you know Larry Needlemeyer. You see him in the background of Elmore, a beige-coloured rock person. The guy who works, well, everywhere. He's the cashier, the pizza guy, the bank teller, the repairman. He's just part of the scenery, right? A funny little background gag about the soul-crushing nature of late-stage capitalism. But here's where you're wrong. Larry isn't a background character. He isn't a gag. He is the single most tragic figure in the entire Gumball universe. He is a man trapped in a Sisyphean nightmare, a modern-day Atlas holding the very fabric of reality on his shoulders, and his payment is nothing but constant, unending psychological torment. This isn't a story about a guy with a lot of jobs. This is the story of a man whose suffering is a cosmic necessity. Let's start with what happens when you introduce the agents of chaos into a man's life when he's just trying to get by. In the episode aptly titled The Laziest, Gumball and Darwin, in their infinite childish wisdom, decide they need to find someone lazier than their father, Richard Watterson. They don't go looking for some random slacker. No, they seek out a man who had already escaped the abyss. They seek out Larry, who admits he used to be known as Lazy Larry, a title he has worked tirelessly to shed. He explains that he's happy now. He has a job. He has a car. He has a girlfriend. He has a house. He has built a life for himself, piece by piece, out of the ashes of his former apathy. Think about that for a second. He escaped. He won. And then Gumball and Darwin arrive. They plead with him. They beg him. They manipulate him into returning to his old ways just for a contest. And Larry, being the fundamentally decent person that he is, can't stand to see them sad. So he agrees. And in the span of a single day, a single, horrifying day, his entire life is systematically dismantled. He loses his job. He loses his car. His girlfriend leaves him. He loses his house. Everything he worked for, everything that gave him a sense of purpose and stability, is annihilated. Let that sink in. The show plays this for laughs, but what we are actually witnessing is the complete and utter destruction of a man's existence, orchestrated by two children who are bored on a Saturday. This isn't just a setback. This is a targeted demolition of a person's soul. Larry is reduced to a slovenly, overweight shell of his former self, plopped on a couch with a bag of chips. Gumball and Darwin don't see a man they have catastrophically ruined. They see a tool for their game. They see a champion for their lazy-off. They give him the tools he needs to be a lazy person, and he instantly gets fat and relaxed. This isn't a funny visual gag. This is a manifestation of his psychological collapse. His body is physically representing the giving up of his spirit. He has been so thoroughly broken that his biology has regressed to match his despair. This is straight-up body horror, a physical transformation brought on by pure, unadulterated hopelessness. But it gets so much worse. You see, Larry's suffering isn't just personal, it's structural, it's fundamental to the very existence of Elmore. We get the first hint of this in the episode The Job. Richard Watterson, a being whose sole purpose is to consume and do nothing, gets a job as a pizza delivery guy. This act is so contrary to the natural order of the universe that reality itself begins to fray at the edges. Gumball and Darwin watch in horror as their father's brief stint in the workforce causes distortions in time and space. Who does this directly impact? Larry. Of course, it's Larry. He's the manager at Furvidus Pizza, forced to endure Richard as an employee. The universe literally begins to fall apart. Night falls in the middle of the day. Snow appears in summer. People start floating. Gumball's family and Larry himself are subjected to grotesque physical transformations as Richard's continued employment rips at the very fabric of space-time. And how is it all resolved? Larry has to fire Richard. The moment Richard is relieved of his duty, the moment he is no longer a productive member of society, the universe snaps back into place. Let's be absolutely clear about what this means. The stability of reality in Elmore is predicated on Richard Watterson being a layabout and, by extension, Larry Needlemeyer working. Larry isn't just holding down a few jobs. He's the load-bearing wall of their entire dimension. His perpetual thankless labour is the only thing stopping their world from collapsing into a surrealist void. This brings us to the magnum opus of Larry's torment, the absolute pinnacle of his suffering, the episode called The Pizza. If you've ever wondered what it looks like when a man's soul is ground into a fine powder and then sprinkled over the smouldering ruins of his own life, this is it. The Wattersons, in a collective fit of rage after having a bad day, decide to order a pizza. And Richard, in his infinite foolishness, places an order so ludicrous, so impossibly complex, that it pushes Larry, who has already been personally victimised by every single member of the Watterson family that day, over the edge. Think about his day up to this point. He was forced to deal with Nicole's rage at his auto repair shop, which resulted in her destroying her own car. He had to deal with Richard's gluttony at the burger joint, where Richard literally climbed over the counter and started consuming condiments like a wild animal. He had to deal with the kids spoiling every movie in his video store, driving away all his customers. Each member of the family, in their own unique way, has chipped away at his sanity. The pizza order is the final blow. It's the straw that breaks the camel's everything. He quits. He quits all of his jobs. And what happens? Apocalypse. That's what happens. Not a slow decline, an immediate catastrophic societal collapse. The moment Larry stops working, Elmore descends into a Mad Max-style hellscape. Cars explode, buildings burn, locusts swarm. The citizens, including Principal Brown and Mr. Small, devolve into feral, cannibalistic tribes. Let me repeat that. The only thing standing between the citizens of Elmore and them literally eating each other is Larry Needlemeyer showing up for his shift. This isn't subtext, it's the explicit plot of the episode. He is the only thing keeping this thin veneer of civilization from peeling back to reveal the festering chaos underneath. And do the Wattersons realise the gravity of this? Do they understand that their casual cruelty has triggered the end of the world? Of course not. They apologise to him, not because they've doomed society, but because they want their pizza. They give him a $100 tip, which is now worthless due to hyperinflation, and then he charges them $9,000 for the pizza they ordered 30 minutes ago. In a world without rules, in a world of fire and chaos, the one constant is that Larry Needlemeyer still gets screwed over. He is the alpha and the omega of suffering. He is the beginning and the end of the cosmic joke, and the punchline is always his pain. Now let's descend deeper into the iceberg. We've established the catastrophic consequences of Larry's absence. But what about the daily, grinding psychological warfare he endures? Look no further than the refund. Gumball and Darwin want a refund for a video game that doesn't work on their console. Larry, bound by the draconian rules of his corporate overlord, a tiny, sociopathic bear, cannot give them one. What follows is not a simple disagreement, it is a masterclass in psychological torture. The boys don't just ask for a refund, they systematically break him down. They impersonate police officers to intimidate him, they attempt to hypnotise him, and then they resort to the most insidious tactic of all, emotional manipulation. They create a fake charity video, a piece of pure weaponised pathos, depicting a shoebox-dwelling child named Jimmy, played by Anais, whose life has been ruined by bad video games. Larry, a man who is already on the edge, completely crumbles. He weeps, overcome with guilt for a problem he didn't create and has no power to solve. Yet, even in his broken state, the fear of his boss is so great that he cannot give the refund. He is trapped, a prisoner in his own convenience store, forced to choose between the wrath of a child and the wrath of a soulless corporation. And this isn't an isolated incident. The Wattersons view Larry not as a person, but as a resource to be exploited, a system to be gamed. In the menu, their desire for a secret burger escalates from a simple inquiry to full-blown criminal action. They don't just ask him for the secret, they kidnap him. Let's be very clear about this. They abduct a man, strap him to a chair in a dark room, and torture him for information about a sandwich. Gumball, Darwin and Richard subject him to psychological torment, threatening to vandalise the joyful burger mascot, something they know he cares about. They are literally using hostage negotiation tactics on a minimum wage employee. This is beyond a prank. This is a felony. Richard even deep fries and eats the mascot's fingers right in front of him. This is a grotesque act of violence, a clear message that they will destroy what he loves if he does not comply. Larry, terrified for his life and the well-being of a corporate statue, finally caves. And his reward for enduring this kidnapping and torture, he has to orchestrate a citywide eating challenge for Richard. He's forced to facilitate the very gluttony that caused his torment in the first place. There is no escape for Larry. Every door leads back to another room in his own personal hell. The constant abuse, the endless labour, the weight of the universe on his shoulders. It takes a toll. And sometimes we get a glimpse of what happens when the machinery of Larry's mind finally starts to break down. In The Night, we see a collage of the dreams of Elmore's residents. Gumball has anxiety dreams about falling. Richard dreams of being food. But Larry's dream is the most existentially terrifying of them all. He dreams he's at work, then wakes up to find he's at another job, then wakes up again to find he's in a different dream entirely. It's a nested reality, a dream within a dream, and every single layer is one of his jobs. For Larry, there is no escape. Even his subconscious is a prison of endless labour. His mind cannot even conceive of a reality where he isn't working, and the horror bleeds into the real world. When he's finally woken up by the donut cop, he's so disoriented, so completely detached from what is real and what is a dream, that he behaves bizarrely. He disrespects the officer, not out of malice, but because his brain has been so thoroughly scrambled by his nightmare that he thinks he's still asleep. And for this, he is arrested. He is punished for the psychological damage inflicted upon him by his own life. It's a perfect tragic loop. His work gives him nightmares, and his nightmares land him in jail. Then there's the question. Gumball and Darwin, in a fit of philosophical curiosity, ask Larry the meaning of life. Larry, the man who holds society together, eagerly explains that his life is all about work. He recites his daily routine, a litany of tasks across his many jobs. But as he says the words out loud, he has a horrifying epiphany. He realizes his entire existence is a monotonous, joyless cycle of labour. The realization shatters him. He doesn't just get sad. He has a complete and total existential breakdown. He kisses his fiancée goodbye, steals a car and drives to the beach, where he calmly walks into the ocean, presumably to be swallowed by the void. This isn't played as a joke. It's the logical conclusion for a man who's been forced to confront the absolute emptiness of his own existence. But it's not just the big, life-shattering moments. It's the constant, low-level hum of degradation he faces every single day. In The Gift, he's a messenger whose retinas are literally burned by an exploding birthday invitation. He's a store clerk who has to sell a $20,000 painting to children who have no money. He's just trying to do his jobs, and he suffers direct physical injury for it. In The Law, Felicity Parham, in a fit of self-righteous rage, beats him senseless and steals his ice cream truck. He's a victim of a violent carjacking, and it's treated as a minor plot point. In The Stars, we see Elmore's service economy weaponized against him. Gumball and Darwin discover the power of online reviews and use it to terrorize Larry for free stuff. They give him 1-star reviews, manufacturing outrage to get free haircuts, free food, even forcing him to create a movie from scratch because they were bored. This episode is a horrifyingly accurate depiction of the modern gig economy nightmare. Larry is trapped, his livelihood completely at the mercy of the arbitrary whims of his customers. He cannot fight back. He can only suffer, smile, and insist that the customer is always right, even when the customer is a sociopathic child demanding he create a feature film on a 5-minute notice. And think about the sheer variety of indignitors. In The Heist, he's a bank teller who gets robbed by Richard. only to be framed as an accomplice by a sentient cupcake. He's a victim of a crime who is then treated as a criminal. In the shippening, his very autonomy is stolen from him when Sarah uses a magic notebook to force him into a romantic relationship with Mr. Small. His consent is completely irrelevant. He is treated like a doll, a puppet whose life can be rewritten for someone else's entertainment. This is a profound violation of his personhood. Let's talk about the schooling. This episode is maybe the most concise summary of his entire existence. Larry, on the verge of a cardiac event, takes his contractually obligated 5-minute break for the entire year. And in those 5 minutes, he has Gumball and Darwin cover all of his jobs. We see the boys experience the full spectrum of his labour: cashier, street cleaner, waiter, stock boy, delivery driver, postal worker, bank clerk, and on and on. It's an endless scroll of thankless tasks, each one more demeaning and frustrating than the last. The episode is a montage of suffering. Gumball and Darwin are traumatised by the experience, but for Larry this is just Tuesday. At the end of it all, a frazzled Gumball and Darwin ask him how he deals with it. Larry explains that the threat of not being able to pay his rent is a great motivator. He says if he'd stayed in school, he could have gotten a good job and wouldn't have to work so hard. Think about the tragedy of that statement. He believes his situation is a personal failing, a result of his own choices. He has so thoroughly internalised the impossible demands of his world that he blames himself for his own suffering. He doesn't see the system that grinds him down. He doesn't see the cosmic forces that demand his torment. He just sees a guy who should have tried harder in school. It's the ultimate psychological victory for the cruel universe he inhabits. It has convinced him that his prison is a home he built himself. Even when people try to be nice, it backfires on him. In The Code, Gumball and Darwin, in a misguided attempt to imitate online trolls, leave a series of negative reviews on products in his store. They don't do it out of malice, but because they're trying to replicate a form of entertainment. The result is the same. Larry's business suffers, and he is the one who has to clean up the mess. In The Slip, he's a postal worker trying to do his job, but he's tormented by Richard Watterson's absolute refusal to comply with the simplest of delivery protocols. The entire episode is a slow-motion car crash of a man trying to follow the rules in a world that has none, and being punished for it at every turn. We see him get his car shrunk by a faulty potion. We see him get assaulted by the Wattersons during their ill-fated reverse heist. We see him as a mall Santa, only to be violently kicked off his own chair by Anais. Every appearance, no matter how brief, is a new verse in the epic poem of his misery. He is the town's designated victim, the official shock absorber for everyone else's chaos. Without him, Elmore wouldn't just collapse into anarchy. It would cease to exist. He is the quiet, suffering god holding their world together, and they don't even know his name half the time. They just know he's the guy behind the counter, the guy who takes their money, the guy who has to smile while they ruin his life. You have to understand, the sheer number of jobs he holds isn't just a joke about a bad economy. It's a narrative device to ensure he is always in the wrong place at the wrong time. He has to be the bank teller when the bank is being robbed. He has to be the cashier when the Wattersons have no money. He has to be the pizza guy when the order is an affront to God and man. The universe has perfectly engineered his life to maximise his exposure to the Watterson family's particular brand of reality-destroying entropy. He is in a cage, and the bars are made of every storefront in Elmore. Every help wanted sign is just another nail in his coffin. Think about the physical toll. His retinas are burned. He is electrocuted. He is beaten up. He's in a constant state of exhaustion. So much so that his heart will literally stop if he doesn't take a 5-minute break once a year. This isn't hyperbole. This is his diagnosed medical condition. His job is literally killing him, but he cannot stop because the alternative is the heat death of the universe, or at the very least a town full of cannibals. What choice does he have? He is the most important and the most disposable person in Elmore all at once. And through it all, he tries. he really, genuinely tries to be a good person and a good employee. He tries to enforce the rules, he tries to provide good service, he tries to maintain some semblance of order in a world that is actively hostile to the very concept. He is the embodiment of the struggle of the common man against a system designed to crush him. He is every retail worker who has had to smile through a customer's tirade, every delivery driver blamed for traffic, every person just trying to do their job while the world burns down around them. Larry Needlemeyer isn't just a cartoon character. He's a mood, he's a vibe. He is the patron saint of the eternally exhausted. So next time you watch Gumball and you see Larry behind a counter, don't just laugh at the gag. Take a moment to appreciate the sheer, horrifying weight of what you're witnessing. You are seeing a man who was once lazy and free, now shackled to the fate of a world that repays him only with pain. You're seeing a man who lost his home, his love and his life, just so Gumball and Darwin could win a bet. You're seeing the man who was kidnapped and tortured for a burger recipe. You are seeing the lonely, tormented soul whose suffering is the only thing keeping reality from unravelling like a cheap sweater. He is the tragic, unsung hero of Elmore, and his story is the darkest one the show has ever told. Let us dive into the specifics of his many roles, because each one is a unique flavour of nightmare. As a cashier at the grocery store, he's on the front lines of Richard's insatiable hunger and Nicole's bargain-hunting fury. In The Money, he's the one who has to break the news that the Wattersons are broke, making him the unwilling messenger of their financial doom. He has to stand there as Nicole transforms into a muscular beast of pure rage. What's his training for that? What part of the employee handbook covers customer dehulking procedures? There is none. He just has to absorb it. As the clerk at Laser Video, the video rental store, he is the guardian of a dead technology, a relic in a world of streaming. In the DVD, he's forced to send increasingly urgent notices for a late DVD, a thankless task that only makes him the villain in the Wattersons' narrative. When they finally confront him, it's with a shoddy homemade replacement for the movie they destroyed. He has to be the bad guy, the enforcer of rules, for a measly late fee, all while dealing with children who genuinely believe a cardboard cutout is a valid replacement for a commercial product. The level of delusion he faces on a daily basis is staggering. Then, in the spoiler, he has to chase Anais through a movie theatre because she's pirating a film. He's not just a clerk. He's loss prevention, security and a babysitter, all for minimum wage. Then there's his work in food service, which is a special kind of hell. As the server at Joyful Burger, he is the gatekeeper to Richard Watterson's primary life source. In the diet, he has to tell Richard he can't be served because he's already consumed 12,000 calories. He's not just a cashier, he's an unwilling nutritionist, a food cop trying to regulate a black hole of appetite. Richard's response is to vault the counter and start drinking condiments straight from the dispenser. Imagine trying to explain that to your manager. Sorry about the mayonnaise shortage, sir, but a large pink rabbit just drank 2 gallons of it. It's an impossible situation. In The Romantic, he's an ice cream man forced to participate in Gumball's deranged romantic treasure hunt for Penny. He has to read a clue off a plate while Penny, in a fit of stress, swallows handfuls of ice cream. He is an unwilling actor in the theatre of Gumball's adolescent ego, forced to play his part in a grand gesture that is really just a series of public health violations. In The Vegging, he's a burrito delivery guy who's instructed to shove food through a mail slot and then launch it into the house with a shovel. He's not just delivering food, he's enabling a level of sloth so profound it borders on performance art, and he doesn't even get to keep the tip. Let's not forget his time in civic services. In The Slip, he's a postal worker named Mr. Gruber, and he is subjected to a prolonged campaign of harassment by Richard, who is pathologically incapable of being home for a delivery. The entire episode is a descent into madness, a duel of wits between a man trying to do his job and a man whose entire existence is a monument to avoiding responsibility. Richard's obsession with a single puzzle piece drives Larry to a series of elaborate reverse pranks, escalating to the point where he's luring Richard to the desert with a fake ice cream truck. This isn't just a postal worker's bad day. This is a psychological thriller. And what about his brief but horrifying turn as a mall Santa in Christmas? He's just trying to earn some holiday cash, and his reward is being physically assaulted by Anais, who kicks him off his throne so a random homeless man the Wattersons ran over can take his place. There is no dignity for Larry, not even during the season of goodwill. He is just an obstacle to be removed, a prop in the Wattersons' chaotic holiday special. The sheer disrespect is breathtaking. Perhaps the most telling of all his roles is what we see in the news. The episode is a series of news reports about the absurdity of Elmore, and Larry is everywhere. He's the employee at the Joyful Burger drive-thru dealing with the police force's massive order during a fake robbery. But then, we see an artist's impression of the robbery suspect fleeing the scene. It's an ant carrying a French fry. But the artist has also drawn Larry's face on the ant. Even when he's not directly involved, the universe finds a way to implicate him. He is so synonymous with suffering and misfortune that his face becomes the default image for pathetic perpetrator. He is the living symbol of things going wrong. And what about his personal life, the little we get to see of it? It's just as tragic. In The Laziest, his girlfriend Karen is shown to be the anchor of his new responsible life. The moment Gumball and Darwin reintroduce laziness into his world, she's gone. She leaves him without a second thought, proving his stability was so fragile that a single afternoon of slop was enough to shatter it. In The Question, when he has his existential breakdown, he walks away from her at the beach. We never see if she goes after him, if she tries to save him from his despair. He is utterly alone in his crisis. His own mind is a torture chamber. Remember the night? His dream isn't about flying or being a superhero. It's an infinite regression of his jobs. He is so traumatized by his waking life that his sleeping mind can only replicate it, trapping him in a labyrinth of work from which there is no escape. The fact that this psychological horror culminates in him being arrested is the perfect, cruel punchline. He is literally incarcerated for his own trauma. It's a closed system of suffering, and he is the only inhabitant. This is why his role in The Job and the Pizza is so critical. He's not just a character, he's a concept. He represents the labour, the effort, the thankless grind that allows a society of cartoon characters to function. The Wattersons, and by extension most of Elmore, are agents of pure idée. They act on impulse, desire, and emotion, with zero regard for consequences. Larry is the superego. He is the rule enforcer, the service provider, the one who cleans up the mess. When he is removed from the equation, the result is an immediate regression to a primal state of chaos and violence. He is the thin beige line between civilization and apocalypse. Let's take another look at the sheer physical abuse. In The Gift, a magical exploding invitation burns his retinas. This isn't a quick gag. Gumball and Darwin are also hit, and they complain about the damage for the rest of the episode. This implies Larry, who is also hit, is walking around with permanent eye damage just trying to get through his shift. In The Potion, his car is shrunk by Gumball and Darwin's reckless potion making. That's thousands of dollars of property damage, and it's just a throwaway moment. The universe treats his property with the same casual contempt it treats his body and his mind. And the ultimate indignity? The complete lack of recognition. After everything he does, after everything he endures, does anyone ever thank him? No. They blame him. They sue him. They get restraining orders against him as seen in the finale. After years of being the town's punching bag, the Wattersons try to apologise, and what do they find? Larry has finally learned his lesson. He has learned that proximity to this family is a one-way ticket to ruin, and he has taken legal steps to protect himself. But it's too late. The damage is done, and even this act of self-preservation is framed as him being unreasonable. We have to talk about his origins. In The Laziest, we learn he wasn't always this way. He was Lazy Larry, a man who presumably lived a life as carefree and irresponsible as Richard Watterson. But something changed. He made a choice. He chose to be a productive member of society, and for that choice, he has been punished every single day since. His story is an inverted hero's journey. He chose the path of responsibility, and it led him not to glory or fulfillment, but to a state of perpetual, multifaceted damnation. He is a living cautionary tale. In the world of Elmore, trying to be better only makes things infinitely worse. The sheer cosmic injustice of it all is mind-boggling. When Gumball and Darwin ask him for advice in The Question, his breakdown is so profound that he abandons his life and walks into the sea. This isn't just a character quitting his job. This is a man whose entire philosophical framework has been shattered. The two children, by simply asking why, forced him to confront the void at the centre of his existence, and his response is to walk directly into it. The show plays it off, he comes back in later episodes, but the psychological scar is there. We have witnessed a man's spirit die on screen. Consider his role in the spin-offs. In a series of fake TV shows, Rob hijacks the broadcast with, one is The Barcode Cowboy, a show starring Larry. The intro shows him heroically performing his many jobs. The show itself, however, is just him, at one job, working very, very slowly. It's a meta-commentary on his entire existence. The idea of him is heroic, the hard-working man who does it all. The reality is a slow, grinding, monotonous task. It's the perfect summary of his character, a myth of heroic labour masking a reality of soul-crushing boredom and pain. Then you have the episodes where the abuse becomes overtly criminal, the refund, the menu. These aren't just bad customer interactions. In the refund, the boys' campaign of harassment culminates with Richard Watterson, a grown man attempting to physically intimidate Larry, and then just straight up robbing the store by taking money from the register. Larry is the victim of an attempted strong-arm robbery. In the menu, as we've established, he is kidnapped and psychologically tortured. These are not pranks. These are crimes. Larry is a repeat victim of serious criminal offences, and the police department in Elmore is so incompetent they never once intervene on his behalf. He has no recourse, no justice. His only moment of agency, of fighting back, comes in the stars. Driven to the brink by Gumball and Darwin's one-star review. Campaign, he finally snaps. When they beg him to kill their review website by giving it 0 stars, he refuses. He decides to give it 5 stars to make it permanent, to lock the world into this new hellscape of their own creation. It's a villainous turn, born of pure despair. For a brief shining moment, he chooses to make everyone else feel the powerlessness he feels every day. Of course, he fails. An accidental reflection of a light off Richard's bald head blinds him, and he hits 0 stars by mistake, restoring the world and robbing him of his one moment of vengeful triumph. Even when he tries to be the villain, the universe conspires to make him the hero, against his will. That's the ultimate tragedy of Larry Needlemeyer. He is denied even the satisfaction of becoming the monster his world wants him to be. He is trapped in the role of the long-suffering everyman, the cosmic punching bag. His suffering is not a bug in the system. It is the system itself. The economy of Elmore runs on his pain. The laws of physics are stabilised by his exhaustion. The very narrative of the show requires him to be in the crosshairs of every disaster, every prank, every Watterson-induced apocalypse. He isn't just a man with many jobs. He is a man who has been sacrificed on the altar of comedy, a tragic hero whose only reward for holding the world together is to be ground under its heel day after day for eternity. Let's dissect the physical comedy aspect of his suffering, because this is where the style of the show masks the sheer horror of his reality. When the Wattersons' chaos unfolds, it's not just metaphorical. It has tangible, brutal consequences for Larry. In The Gift, he's a messenger trying to deliver a birthday invitation. The invitation is a bizarre contraption that releases an explosive flash. engraving the message on the recipient's retinas. This happens to Gumball and Darwin, but it also happens to Larry. The show explicitly states his vision is damaged. He's seen tripping over the porch and driving off in the wrong car. This isn't just slapstick. This is a workplace injury. A man has suffered permanent retinal damage while on the job, and it's treated as a sight gag. He's left to navigate the world with impaired vision, all for the sake of delivering an invitation for Masami's party. Think about the implications of the potion. Gumball and Darwin are brewing a magic potion and accidentally shrink Larry's car. Just poof. A major personal asset, likely one of the most expensive things he owns, is reduced to the size of a toy. Is there an insurance policy for that? Does he just have to go to work the next day and explain to his manager that his car was shrunk by 2 children practicing witchcraft in their backyard? No. The event happens, and then it's forgotten. The boys face no consequences, and Larry's left to deal with the financial and logistical nightmare of his primary mode of transportation being turned into a Hot Wheels car. The casual destruction of his property is a recurring theme, a constant reminder of his powerlessness. In The Anybody, Clayton, in a fit of identity hopping, impersonates Larry. The real Larry then reports a crime to the donut cop, but because he's describing the actions of his doppelganger, he ends up describing himself. He is nearly arrested for a crime he was the victim of. This is pure Kafka-esque nightmare fuel. He is being gaslit by reality itself. He sees a crime, reports it, and is told that he is the perpetrator. It's a direct assault on his sanity, a moment where the justice system turns on him and validates the chaos that plagues him. He has to run from the police for reporting a crime that happened to him. Let that sink in. Even his brief moments of joy are tainted. In the singing, he has 2 musical numbers. In the first, he sings to Richard about the dangers of unhealthy food. It's a moment of genuine concern, a man trying to help a customer. Richard's response is to break into his own song about his love for fried food, completely ignoring Larry's advice. Larry's attempt at connection is steamrolled by Richard's gluttony. Later, he helps Principal Brown serenade Miss Simeon. He's an unwilling participant in a public display of affection, forced to provide musical backup for his boss's bizarre romance. He is never a participant in his own life. He is always in a supporting role for someone else's, usually against his will. And let's not forget the sheer weirdness of the torment. In The Goons, during a dumb race, Richard Watterson is accidentally proposed to by Larry, who was having a picnic with his girlfriend. This isn't just a random event, it's a moment of profound public humiliation. Imagine trying to have a romantic picnic, and a giant pink rabbit in a blindfold runs up, and you somehow end up proposing to him. How do you explain that to your partner? How do you recover from that socially? You don't. It's just another scar, another piece of psychic damage that Larry has to carry with him forever. The episode The Schooling deserves a deeper look, because it's not just about the volume of work, it's about the nature of the work. Gumball and Darwin are forced to deal with Harold demanding a literally bottomless drink. They have to deal with an old woman asking them to find her son who has been missing since 1975. They are forced to participate in a bank robbing itself. These aren't normal customer service jobs. These are surreal, impossible tasks that defy logic and reason. This is Larry's every day. He doesn't just have to deal with rude customers, he has to deal with customers whose demands fundamentally misunderstand the nature of reality. He is a customer service representative for the Twilight Zone, and he is so beaten down by it that he has no fight left. When Gumball and Darwin tell him their plan to make Richard's wishes come true in the wand, he isn't mentioned, but we can infer his presence. Gumball and Darwin are fulfilling Richard's wishes, which involve tormenting the Robinsons. But where do they get the supplies? The bikini, the watermelon? They come from a store that Larry almost certainly works at. He is the silent, unseen enabler of the town's madness, the one who has to ring up the bizarre items that will later be used to create chaos. He is complicit in his own world's destruction because his job requires him to be. The ultimate proof of his cosmic importance comes from that one moment in the job. As Richard's employment continues to unravel reality, the Wattersons and Larry are all in the car, being subjected to horrifying transformations. Nicole becomes a puddle. The kids become distorted versions of themselves. Larry is also transformed repeatedly into different art styles and monstrous forms. But here's the thing, he's still trying to do his job. He's in the car with them, trying to get to Richard, trying to fix the problem, trying to restore order. Even as the universe melts around him, his first instinct is to work. His conditioning is so absolute that not even the collapse of physics can stop him from trying to complete his task. This is the core of Larry's tragedy. He is the only person in Elmore who seems to believe in rules, in cause and effect, in the idea that actions should have logical consequences. And he lives in a world that is actively, violently hostile to all of those things. He is a man of logic in a world of chaos, a man of reason in a world of insanity. Every day for him is a battle against the fundamental nature of his own reality. And every day he loses. But he gets up the next morning and goes back to work. Why? Because if he doesn't, the world ends. His suffering is not just a running gag. It is the price of existence for everyone else in Elmore. He suffers so they can be free. He toils so they can be lazy. He endures so they can have adventures. He is, without a doubt, the true, unsung, and deeply, deeply traumatized hero of the amazing world of Gumball. Let's zoom in on some of the more subtle, but equally disturbing instances of his torment. In The Spoon, Sal Left Thumb, a known criminal, robs the gas station where Larry is working. But he doesn't use a gun or a knife. He uses a rusty spoon. Larry, a man who has likely seen all manner of absurdity, is genuinely terrified by this. The scene is played for laughs, but imagine the reality. A man is threatening you, raiding your cash register, and the weapon is so bizarre, so nonsensical, that it adds a layer of deep psychological disturbance to the fear. It's not just a robbery, it's a surrealist home invasion of his workplace. He is then tied up and has to watch as the police arrest the wrong person, Cole, leaving him completely helpless and invalidated. The system that is supposed to protect him fails spectacularly, right in front of his eyes. Now, let's look at his relationship with technology, or rather technology's relationship with him. In The Web, Nicole is shown to be comically inept with computers, printing out every frame of a video to read the movie. Gumball and Darwin are appalled by this, but it highlights a broader theme: the older generation's struggle with the digital world. Larry exists in a liminal space. He's young enough to understand it, but he works in industries so archaic, like a video rental store, that he's constantly clashing with the modern world. In The Stars, Gumball weaponizes the internet against him. Larry isn't just getting a bad review, he's being cyberbullied by children, and his livelihood is directly threatened by a system he has no control over. The digital world, which should be a tool, becomes another instrument of his torture. In The Founder, Richard Watterson, through a series of misunderstandings, is mistaken for the reclusive founder of Chanax Inc. He proceeds to run the company into the ground with a series of fun but catastrophically stupid initiatives. While Larry isn't the focus here, Chanax Inc. is shown to own many of the small businesses in Elmore. This means Larry, in many of his jobs, is an employee of this corporate behemoth. His ultimate boss is a system so broken that it can be accidentally taken over by Richard Watterson. The goblin assistant who drops Hayden into a pit for questioning authority. That's Larry's HR department. The fun elevator that is just a slide into a ball pit. That's his corporate infrastructure. He is a cog in a machine that is not just soulless, but actively, dangerously moronic. His suffering is not just at the hands of customers, but from the very corporate structure that employs him. Let's re-examine The Lie. The episode is about Gumball inventing a holiday, Sluzzle Tack, to alleviate the January blues. The whole town buys into it, celebrating with bizarre traditions. Richard buys a Sluzzlewurst from the store. Who do you think had to stock, prepare, and sell a fictional sausage for a fictional holiday? Larry. He is forced to participate in the town's collective delusion, not as a willing celebrant, but as the service worker who has to facilitate it. He has to pretend a Sluzzlewurst is a real product and sell it to Richard, all while maintaining a straight face. He's a paid actor in the theatre of Elmore's madness, and he doesn't even get a script. And the emotional whiplash he must experience is insane. One moment he's dealing with a mundane transaction, the next he's at the centre of a cosmic event. In the finale, the Wattersons are facing the consequences of all their past actions. The town is falling apart and people are filing lawsuits. Nicole and Anais try to apologise to everyone, starting with Larry, but he's one step ahead. He has a restraining order against them. This is a man who has been pushed so far that he has resorted to the legal system for protection against a 12-year-old cat and his family. It's a rational act in an irrational world. But of course, it doesn't work. The rules don't apply to the Wattersons. His restraining order is just a piece of paper in the face of the hurricane that is their family life. The physical comedy is a smokescreen for what is essentially a series of life-altering injuries. In the pizza, after Larry quits and triggers the apocalypse, the Wattersons find him at a bus stop. He's despondent, broken. They convince him to come back, but think about what that means. He has to return to every single job where he was abused and tormented, and pretend like nothing happened. He has seen the void. He has understood that his labour is the only thing keeping society from eating itself, and now he has to go back to asking people if they want fries with that. The psychological burden of that knowledge alone is horrifying. He knows that his suffering is necessary, which makes it all the more tragic. He's not just a victim, he is a willing sacrifice, because the alternative is too terrible to contemplate. Even his name, Needlemeyer, feels like a cruel joke. He's constantly being needled by the residents of Elmore. He exists in a state of perpetual irritation and annoyance, a man whose baseline emotional state is on the verge of snapping. And when he does snap, as in the pizza or the stars, the universe either collapses or conspires to immediately undermine his rebellion, forcing him back into his designated role as the town's suffering servant. There is no victory for Larry. There is only the job, the next customer, the next indignity. He is trapped in a loop, not of time, but of function. His purpose is his prison. So, while you might watch the show and laugh at the absurdity of a man working 30 jobs, what you're really seeing is a deep, dark commentary on the nature of work, purpose, and suffering. You're watching a character who embodies the quiet desperation of the service industry, cranked up to a cartoonishly apocalyptic level. He is the ultimate straight man in a world of clowns, and his reward for maintaining his composure is to be hit with a pie, over and over and over again for eternity. He is not just a background character, he is the soul of Elmore, and his soul is in agony. Let's break down the power dynamics at play. Larry is in a position of authority in his jobs, the cashier who can deny a sale, the clerk who can enforce a rule. But this authority is completely illusory. In the money, he tries to tell the Wattersons their card has insufficient funds. This is a simple statement of fact, but in the face of the Wattersons' reality-warping need, this fact is irrelevant. The family's chaos always supersedes the rules Larry is paid to enforce. He is a soldier with no weapons, a guard with no walls. His uniform is just a costume, a symbol of a power he does not and will never possess. In The Kids, Gumball and Darwin's voices start breaking and they have an encounter with Larry in a convenience store. Their uncontrollably deep and cracking voices make their apologies sound like sarcastic threats. Larry becomes increasingly furious, believing he's being mocked by two bizarrely short men. He threatens to call security. From his perspective, he's just a man at work being harassed. He doesn't know they're children going through puberty. He is forced to react to the surface-level absurdity of Elmore without any of the context, which means he is always in the wrong, always overreacting, always the unreasonable one in a world where reason has no currency. He is constantly being judged by the insane standards of an insane world. Consider the episode The Procrastinators. Larry isn't in it, but his presence is felt. The episode is about avoiding chores, about the allure of doing nothing. Richard Watterson is the king of this world. Larry is his polar opposite. He's a man who cannot stop doing chores because all of his jobs are in essence chores for the rest of the town. While Richard and the kids are finding infinite ways to avoid taking out one bag of trash, Larry's out there taking out everyone's trash, metaphorically speaking. He is the anti-Richard, and the universe punishes him for it. Richard's laziness allows him to live a life of blissful ignorance, while Larry's diligence earns him nothing but pain and exhaustion. The moral of Elmore is clear. Effort is for suckers. We also need to consider the jobs he holds that are just plain bizarre. In The Limit, he's a back masseuse at the supermarket, an occupation that seems wildly out of place. He gives Nicole a back massage but is clearly unqualified, causing her more pain. This isn't just a funny scenario. It implies a world with such a desperate labour market that Larry has to take on jobs for which he has absolutely no training. He is forced to be a jack of all trades and a master of none, putting him in a constant state of professional incompetence, not because he's bad at his job, but because he has too many jobs to possibly be good at any of them. And then there's the meta-horror of his existence. In The Copycats, the Wattersons discover a Chinese knockoff version of their family. This episode explores the idea of unoriginality and theft. Larry is, in a way, the ultimate victim of this. He's the generic service worker character. He's an archetype, a trope. The show itself has copied the idea of the guy who works everywhere and placed him in their world. But unlike the copycat family who are eventually dealt with, Larry's status as a copy is permanent. He is doomed to be the generic employee, a template of a person, rather than a person himself. The Barcode Cowboy spin-off is the ultimate proof of this. He's so defined by his commercial function that his heroic alter ego is literally a barcode. He is a walking, talking product. Think of the sheer hopelessness. In The Anybody, Clayton shapeshifts into Larry. This means Larry's identity is so non-specific, so generic, that it can be easily stolen and worn like a costume by a piece of sentient plasticine. His personhood is fragile, almost non-existent. The episode shows the real Larry reporting the crime, a moment of profound existential crisis. He saw himself committing a crime. How does a mind even process that? It's a complete breakdown of the self. And what happens? He's dismissed, almost arrested. The world doesn't just ignore his suffering, it actively denies his reality. And what about his attempts at romance? We see his girlfriend Karen in The Laziest, but she's a means to an end, a symbol of the life he loses. In The Question, he walks away from her during his existential crisis. But the most disturbing example is the shippening. Sarah's magic notebook forces him into a romantic plot with Mr. Small. He's shown slipping on a sandwich and landing in front of Mr. Small, who's inexplicably wearing a wedding gown and accepts his proposal. This is a complete violation of his free will. His romantic life is hijacked, turned into a plot device for a fan fiction. He has no say in who he loves, who he partners with. He is a narrative prisoner, and the author is a sadistic ice cream cone with a shipping addiction. The physical toll of his labour is astronomical. In The Schooling, Gumball and Darwin are left bruised, battered and psychologically scarred after just 5 minutes of his life. They get trampled on Black Friday. They have to clean up a movie theatre disaster. They are almost eaten by escaped zoo animals. This is Larry's daily commute. The amount of physical damage he must absorb on a weekly basis is enough to put a normal person in the hospital for life. But he just keeps going. He is a regenerating man, not through superpowers, but through sheer, grim necessity. He has to heal, because he has to be at his next shift in 10 minutes. Let's not forget the episode Halloween. The boys want to cause some mischief and decide to prank Larry at the gas station. They draw a gruff face on him to make him resemble a criminal on a wanted poster. The donut cop arrives, mistakes him for the criminal, and arrests him. This isn't just a prank. This is framing someone for a crime. Larry is arrested, put in the system, all because 2 kids were bored on Halloween. The casual cruelty is what's so unsettling. They don't hate him. They're just indifferent to his existence. He is so much a part of the background that they can deface him like a public wall, with no thought to the consequences for the man underneath. Finally, let's consider the sheer absurdity of the world he has to navigate. In a world where a T-Rex is a fellow student, where ghosts are real, where the sun and moon can argue, Larry is the one who has to pretend everything is normal. He has to ring up groceries for a family of ghosts. He has to serve burgers to a sentient potato. He has to rent movies to a balloon. He is the sole representative of baseline reality in a town that has none. His most heroic act is not stopping an apocalypse, but simply showing up to work every day and not screaming until his vocal cords tear. He is a monument to sanity in an ocean of madness, and that makes him the most tragic and the most compelling character in the entire series. The financial strain on Larry is a constant oppressive force that dictates his every action. In the pizza, the Wattersons are shocked when they finally see how much Larry is owed for their impossible order, $9,000. This isn't just a funny number, it's a representation of the accumulated cost of their chaos. But even this massive sum is treated as a joke. Nicole pays him with a roadkill check, and Richard tips him with rats. He's never truly compensated for his labour or his suffering. The economy of Elmore seems to function on a system where Larry performs all the work and the Wattersons absorb all the value, leaving him in a state of perpetual financial precarity. This is reinforced in the stars. The entire premise is Gumball and Darwin learning they can manipulate Larry by threatening his income through bad reviews. His fear is palpable. A single 1-star review is enough to make him give away free services and products. This speaks to a man living on a razor's edge, where a single piece of negative feedback could mean the difference between paying rent and being homeless. He has no safety net. His life is a Jenga tower of part-time jobs, and the Wattersons are constantly, gleefully pulling out the bottom blocks just to see if it will fall. Consider his role as an unwilling participant in other people's dramas. In The Matchmaker, Gumball and Carrie are trying to make a love potion. Where do they get the ingredients? Presumably from a store where Larry works. When they need to set up a romantic date or a zany scheme, Larry is the one who provides the props, the venue, the services. He is the stage manager for the entire town's psychodramas. In the romantic, he is literally forced to read poetry off a plate as part of Gumball's ridiculous quest. He's not a person. He's a non-player character in everyone else's video game, a quest giver who only exists to dispense items and information before fading back into the background. The episode The News is a microcosm of his entire existence. Mike, the on-the-scene reporter, is a version of Larry. He is everywhere, reporting on every ridiculous event, from a non-existent robbery to the toilets going on strike. He's forced to narrate the absurdity, to give it a sense of legitimacy, all while being completely exhausted and out of breath. He even has a segment where he admits there is nothing to report and just tries to kill time by asking random people their opinions on it. This is the ultimate expression of his life, a constant, frantic effort to fill a void, to perform a function even when there is no function to be performed. He works for the sake of working, because that is all he knows. Even his brief moment of freedom in The Question is tragically ironic. He runs into the sea to escape the monotony of his life. But what is the sea? It's a vast, empty, repetitive expanse of nothingness. He escapes his cycle of labour only to embrace a cycle of nature that is just as monotonous. It's a lateral move in existential despair. He can't escape the loop. He can only change the scenery. The fact that he eventually comes back to his jobs proves that even the void of the ocean is preferable to being unemployed in Elmore. At least at work, his suffering has a purpose, holding the universe together. The true horror is that Larry might be aware of his role. In the job, when reality begins to collapse, he is the one who calmly explains to the Wattersons that Richard's employment is the cause. He understands the cosmic mechanics of his world. He knows that his suffering is necessary. This isn't just something we, the viewers, can deduce. It's something he, the character, seems to understand on some level. He is a self-aware prisoner, which makes his imprisonment all the more cruel. He knows the lock is broken, he knows the walls are crumbling, but he also knows that if he leaves, the whole building goes down with him. So he stays. He shows up for his shift at the gas station, at the grocery store, at the bank, at the pizza place. He endures the abuse, the injuries, the psychological torment, and the existential dread. He takes the bad reviews, the impossible orders, and the casual felonies. He does it all with a tired sigh and a forced smile, the patron saint of the service industry, the silent, suffering bedrock of a world that would not exist without him. He is Larry Needlemeyer, and his tragedy is the greatest story the amazing world of Gumball has ever told. You just had to look past the talking banana and the T-Rex in sneakers to see it. Let's not overlook the smaller, more insidious ways the world chips away at him. In The Oracle, a crowd of angry customers confronts Larry at the mall because they were misled about a promotional prize. Gumball is the one who started the rumour, but Larry is the one who has to face the mob. He is the public face of every broken promise, the target for every disappointment. He has to absorb the town's collective frustration, whether he is responsible or not. This is a constant in his life. He's held accountable for the chaos created by others. He is the designated scapegoat for a world that refuses to take responsibility for itself. In The Decisions, Darwin's inability to make a choice at a joyful burger stand triggers a chain reaction of disasters in the mall. A person slips, an escalator breaks, the mall floods. Larry is the one at the counter, patiently waiting for a simple order, who has to watch as his workplace is once again destroyed by the indecisiveness of a single child. He asks Darwin if he wants to go large, a simple, procedural question, and the answer he gets is a full-scale catastrophe. The gap between the input he receives and the output of chaos is a constant source of bewilderment and suffering for him. Even his physical form is treated with a strange level of disrespect. In The Founder, Richard is approached by Earl, who complains about the loud bass coming from Richard's car, only to realise it's the sound of Richard's stomach rumbling. The joke is about Richard's hunger, but who is Earl? He is another one of Larry's co-workers at Shanax, another beige-coloured rock person. He is functionally interchangeable with Larry. He represents another facet of Larry's existence, the man who is forced to politely confront the bizarre and often disgusting bodily functions of the people around him. He can't even escape the grotesque reality of Richard's digestive system. Think about the episode The Understanding. Gumball and Darwin are tasked with showing a new student, Peter Pepperoni, around the school. They can't understand his gibberish language, but they pretend they do to be polite. This leads them to get involved with his parents, who turn out to be anti-government anarchists. During a police chase, the Pepperonis explain their motivations. But who are they in a car chase with? The donut cop. Who are they stealing files from? The City Hall, where Larry likely works as a clerk. Every act of rebellion in Elmore, no matter how obscure, inevitably circles back to disrupt one of Larry's many jobs. He is the silent victim of every single plot line. His life is so consumed by work that he has no time for personal development or hobbies. In The Blame, when video games are banned, the children of Elmore are forced to read books. Larry is never shown participating in these town-wide trends. He's never seen playing video games or reading or joining a protest. Why? Because he's always working. He is so fundamentally disconnected from the cultural life of the town that he only ever experiences it as a service provider. He sells the video games, he checks out the books, but he never gets to play or read them himself. He's a perpetual outsider, a facilitator of fun he's never allowed to have. Let's circle back to the pure physical threat he constantly faces. In The Signal, the Watterson's car, glitching through reality, careens through the mall and almost crashes into Larry. He has to dive out of the way to avoid being flattened. This isn't a targeted attack. It's just the ambient danger of existing in proximity to the Watterson family. He has to have the situational awareness of a secret agent just to survive a normal Tuesday at the mall. His life is a constant series of near misses, a daily dance with a comically violent death. In The Heist, the sheer incompetence of the justice system is laid bare. After Richard robs him, the cupcake man, a witness, frames Larry as an accomplice, and the donut cop believes him. Larry, the victim of the crime, is immediately treated as a suspect. Why? Because in the narrative of Elmore it is more plausible that Larry is a criminal than it is that the world is simply unfair to him. His victimhood is so profound that it becomes suspicious. He suffers so much that the world assumes he must have done something to deserve it. It is the ultimate form of victim blaming, applied on a cosmic scale, and the tragedy is he's good at his jobs. When he's allowed to actually do them, he's efficient and professional. In The Menu, despite the torture, he still knows the secret protocol for the MacGuffin burger. In The Refund, despite the harassment, he holds firm to his company's policy. He is a competent man in an incompetent world. He is Sisyphus, but instead of a boulder, he's pushing a cart full of expired groceries up a hill, and just as he reaches the top, Richard Watterson asks him if he can eat the cart. His brief appearance in The Origins is particularly poignant. Richard goes to the pet store to buy another fish to replace the one that died. Larry, the pet store owner, tells him that the last two fish jumped out of the tank when they saw him coming. This is played as a joke about Richard's intimidating stupidity, but think about it from Larry's perspective. He's a man trying to run a business, and his own inventory is committing suicide to avoid being purchased by a specific customer. His products are literally choosing death over being sold. How do you maintain a business model under those conditions? You can't. You just have to stand there and watch as your merchandise leaps to its doom. The existential weight of it all is crushing. He is trapped in a world that not only abuses him, but seems to have been specifically designed to do so. His suffering is not a coincidence, it's a feature. He is the system's release valve, the point of least resistance where all the chaotic energy of Elmore can be safely discharged without causing a total system collapse. But the valve is cracking. We see it in the pizza, in the question, in the stars. We see the moments where the pressure becomes too much and the man begins to break. And the scariest part is, we know that after the credits roll, he'll be back behind the counter, patched up and ready for another day, because the show must go on. And for the show to go on, Larry Needlemeyer must suffer. Let's analyse the financial aspect more deeply, because it's not just about being poor, it's about the illusion of commerce in a world without consequences. In the check, the Wattersons crash through the wall of the bank where Larry is working as a teller. He calmly asks them why they are fighting, and Gumball explains they have a check for $5,000 and can't decide what to do with it. Larry, the voice of reason, simply states they could each get $1,000. It's a simple, logical solution. Of course, the check turns out to be for $50, but for a moment Larry's the one who has to process this chaotic, violent entry into his workplace and still provide basic financial advice. His job requires him to treat a car crashing through his wall as a standard customer inquiry. This normalization of disaster is key to his character. He has seen it all. In The Return, he's the one who has to inform Richard that the mall's bull pit was removed and exported because children were getting sucked inside. He delivers this news with the same deadpan tone he'd used to say they're out of medium-sized sodas. He is so desensitized to the horrors of Elmore that the idea of a child-consuming bull pit is just a matter of logistics. The trauma has been replaced by pure, exhausted professionalism. He has reached a level of burnout so profound that the apocalypse would just be another item on his Tuesday morning checklist. Even when he's not the direct target, he's caught in the crossfire. In the lore, when Felicity steals his ice cream truck, he is left standing on the side of the road, a victim of a crime he did nothing to provoke. His property, his livelihood, is just casually taken from him. Does he get it back? Does insurance cover theft by enraged soccer mom? We never find out. The narrative moves on, but Larry is left standing there, without a truck, without an income, just another piece of collateral damage in someone else's story. And the one time he tries to take a break in the schooling, it precipitates a town-wide crisis that Gumball and Darwin have to solve by doing his jobs for him. The episode proves that he is not just a worker, he is the worker. There is no one else. The entire service economy of Elmore is a one-man show. This isn't just an exaggeration, it's the literal premise of the episode. Without him, the town grinds to a halt. This makes his constant suffering not just tragic, but deeply irresponsible on the part of the town's residents. They're abusing their most vital piece of infrastructure. They're relentlessly attacking the pillar that holds their entire society up. The psychological toll of this is unimaginable. He is a man spread so thin that he is essentially a ghost, a functionary who appears wherever a transaction needs to be made. His identity is completely submerged in his labour. We know almost nothing about his personal life, his hopes, his dreams, outside of what we learned in The Laziest, a life he was forced to abandon. He's a character defined by his function, and his function is to suffer for the convenience of others. This makes him a powerful, if accidental, critique of capitalist society, where workers are often reduced to their economic output, their humanity a distant second to their ability to complete a task. And what is the ultimate result of his endless toil? In The Job, after the universe is restored by him firing Richard, the customer who was waiting for the pizza complains that it's half-eaten. Larry, having just witnessed the collapse and restoration of reality, learns that Richard has been eating the pizzas on the job. This is the thanks he gets for saving the universe, a customer complaint and the discovery of employee theft. There is no reward, no recognition, just a return to the same miserable status quo that caused the problem in the first place. It is a perfect, brutal and deeply depressing loop. The variety of his suffering is also worth noting. It's not just one type of pain. He experiences financial ruin, the laziest, physical violence, the law, property destruction, the potion, psychological torture, the refund, the menu, existential crisis, the question, public humiliation, Christmas, legal injustice, the heist, the anybody, and supernatural violation, the shippening. The show's writers have systematically explored every possible way a person can suffer and have applied them all, at one point or another, to Larry. He is a comprehensive encyclopedia of human misery, bound in beige rock and a cheap employee polo shirt. So, as this long, rambling, deep dive continues, just keep that image in your mind. The image of Larry standing behind a counter, somewhere in Elmore. The lights are flickering, a customer is screaming. Something is on fire, and Larry just stands there, with the dead-eyed resignation of a man who knows this is his life, forever. He is not a joke, he is a tragedy, and his story is a nightmare disguised as a children's cartoon. You just have to be willing to see it. Let's peel back another layer of this rotten onion. Let's talk about the sheer futility of his efforts. In every job, Larry is meant to be an agent of order. He's the one who processes transactions, enforces rules, and maintains a clean and safe environment. Yet every single one of his attempts to impose order is immediately and violently rejected by the world around him. In The Mess, Gumball and Darwin stay up all night and experience time skips, blacking out and waking up in increasingly chaotic situations. While Larry isn't directly in this, the episode's theme of entropy is central to his existence. He is a man constantly trying to build a sandcastle, while the tide of pure nonsensical chaos is perpetually coming in. Think about his role in the diet. He's a fast food employee who has to deny service to Richard Watterson, a man who has achieved a state of being so obese it's a danger to himself and others. Larry's acting responsibly. He's following health guidelines and, frankly, common sense. Richard's reaction is to treat this as a personal attack. He doesn't reflect on his own choices. He sees Larry as the villain, the obstacle to his own self-destruction. Larry is punished for being the only sane person in the room. He's the bad guy for trying to prevent a man from eating himself into an early grave. This is a constant pattern. His attempts to be helpful are reframed as malicious obstruction by the very people he's trying to help. This dynamic is perfected in The Advice. Mr. Small gives Gumball and Darwin a series of terrible life lessons which they take literally, causing massive destruction throughout the school. Larry isn't the focus, but you know he's there, somewhere, dealing with the fallout. Who do you think has to clean up the oil spill in the hallway? Who has to restock the vending machines after the kids cause them to explode? Who has to file the insurance claim for the windows they shatter? It's always Larry. Or a version of Larry. He is the invisible janitor of Elmore, endlessly cleaning up the messes left behind by the main character's zany adventures. He lives in the consequences part of the story that everyone else gets to skip. Let's talk about the moments where he is forced to witness pure, unfiltered absurdity. In The Lie, Gumball invents a holiday. Richard creates a sausage for it. Larry has to sell this sausage. In The Founder, Richard redesigns an entire corporate office building based on the logic of a 5-year-old. Larry's co-workers, his peers, are subjected to this. The goblin assistant is his supervisor. His workplace is a circus run by a man-child. How does one maintain a professional demeanour when your CEO has replaced the water cooler with a chocolate fountain and the elevator with a slide that leads directly into a structural support beam? It's a level of workplace dysfunction that would break a lesser man, and his body is just not built for this world. In The Petals, Leslie the flower starts to wilt, and Gumball and Darwin try to fix him with various disastrous methods. This episode is about the fragility of a plant-based life form in a chaotic world. Larry, being made of rock, should be durable, but he isn't. He gets hurt, he gets tired, he gets sick. He has the vulnerabilities of a flesh and blood creature, but none of the resilience. He has the spirit of a marathon runner trapped in the body of a statue. He is fundamentally mismatched with his own existence, a geological anomaly forced to perform tasks that require a level of emotional and physical flexibility he simply does not possess. The sheer emotional labour he has to perform is staggering. In The Catfish, Gumball and Darwin create a fake online profile to befriend a lonely Louie. The episode is about the dangers of catfishing and emotional manipulation. But think about who facilitates all of this. Who runs the internet cafe where they might have set up the profile? Who works at the mall where Louis goes to meet his fake date? Larry is the infrastructure for the town's emotional disasters. He provides the setting, the Wi-Fi, the coffee, while people's lives fall apart in his establishments. He's the silent witness to every heartbreak and betrayal, forced to just keep wiping down the counters, and the world's indifference to him is absolute. In The Potion, when his car is shrunk, nobody stops to help. Gumball and Darwin see it happen, know it was their fault, and their reaction is to be eager about the results. They see the destruction of his property as a successful science experiment. They have no empathy for his loss, no concept of the financial hardship they have just inflicted upon him. To them, he's not a person who has just suffered a major loss. He is a data point. This clinical detachment is in many ways more cruel than outright malice. They don't hate him enough to want him to suffer, they just don't care enough to prevent it. Let's look at his job as a barber in The Stars. He gives Richard a haircut, or rather trims a single strand of hair from his bald head. Richard, a man of profound insecurity, takes this as a grave insult. He's so offended that he cries. Larry's put in an impossible position. He has to provide a service that is physically impossible to provide, and when he does his best, he's met with tears and accusations. It's a perfect metaphor for all of his jobs. He's always asked to do the impossible, and always blamed when he inevitably fails. And what about his one moment of potential escape in the laziest? He had built a new life. He was no longer lazy Larry. He was just Larry. A man with a job, a car, a girlfriend. He had achieved the Elmore equivalent of the American dream, and it was all taken from him in a single afternoon for the sake of a childish game. The speed at which his life unravels is the most terrifying part. It suggests that in Elmore, stability is an illusion, a temporary state that can be revoked at any moment by the whims of the universe, or, more often than not, by the whims of Gumball Watterson. Even the laws of physics seem to have a personal grudge against him. In the job, as Richard rides his pizza scooter, reality distorts around him. The other residents of Elmore are affected, but Larry is in the car with the Wattersons at ground zero. He is transformed, twisted and warped, a passive passenger on a ride through the breakdown of cosmic law. He is not an agent in this story, he is a victim of it, a piece of flotsam in the tide of Richard's reality-bending incompetence. The final, crushing irony is his name, Needlemeyer, a name that evokes something small, sharp and annoying. He is the needle that pricks the balloon of everyone's delusions. He's the one who has to say, "Your card is declined. That's not on the menu. You have to pay for that." He is the voice of unwelcome reality in a town that thrives on fantasy. And for that, he is hated. He is the messenger who is shot over and over again, simply for delivering the news that the world has rules, even if he's the only one who has to follow them. His entire existence is a thankless, painful, and utterly necessary tragedy. Let's dig into the horror of his workplace environment specifically. Shanax Inc., as depicted in The Founder, is a corporate dystopia of the highest order. The employees are mindless drones who chant slogans. Dissent is punished by being dropped into a literal pit. When Richard takes over, it transforms from a soulless corporation into a chaotic, nonsensical death trap. For Larry's co-workers, and by extension for Larry himself, there is no good option. The choice is between sterile, oppressive order and vibrant, lethal chaos. There is no middle ground, no hope for a reasonable, safe and fulfilling work environment. His best-case scenario is a job that slowly kills his soul. His worst case is a job that quickly kills his body. Consider the Ripley 2000 video game store from The Refund. His boss is a tiny, cute bear who, when angered, transforms into a whirlwind of savage violence, viciously mauling Richard. This is Larry's manager. This is the person he reports to. His workplace is governed by a creature with the emotional stability of a rabid wolverine. Imagine the constant, low-level terror of working that job, knowing that any mistake, any deviation from the no refunds policy, could result in your manager physically attacking a customer. The stress would be unbearable. Larry isn't just a cashier, he's a zookeeper for a corporate mascot with a taste for blood. And then there's the gas station, a recurring setting for his misery. In The Spoon, it's the site of a bizarre robbery. In The Schooling, it's one of the many stops on Gumball and Darwin's tour of his life. The gas station in media is often a liminal space, a place of transition and potential danger. For Larry, it's just another office. It's a place where he has to clean up mysterious spills, deal with strange customers, and occasionally get robbed with a piece of rusty cutlery. The inherent danger of the location is just another Tuesday for him. He's so accustomed to it that when Nicole's car explodes in the pizza, he's more annoyed than surprised. Let's also talk about the sheer indignity of his uniform. In almost every job, he wears the same drab beige polo shirt and pants. It's the universal uniform of the unappreciated service worker. It strips him of his individuality, marking him as a function rather than a person. When Clayton impersonates him in The Anybody, He doesn't need a complex disguise, he just needs the uniform. Larry's identity is so tied to his job that the clothes literally make the man. This visual branding is a constant reminder that to the world of Elmore he is not Larry Needlemeyer. He is the guy who works here, a replaceable part in the town's dysfunctional machine. The episode The Line offers another glimpse into his thankless role as an enforcer of order. He's the cinema employee trying to manage a massive, unruly line for a movie premiere. He has to put up privacy barriers and deliver the bad news that not everyone will get into the first screening. He is the face of disappointment for dozens of nerds. He has to absorb their collective rage and frustration over something he has no control over. Once again, he is the messenger being shot, the human shield for a system that creates scarcity and competition, and his reward is to watch the entire crowd abandon his cinema because they were all in the wrong line anyway. All his effort was for nothing. And what about his brief but telling role in the bank in The Check? The Wattersons don't just walk into the bank, they crash into it, in an invisible car, in the middle of a family-wide brawl over a $50 check. Larry has to witness this, his workplace literally crumbling around him, and then calmly ask them what the problem is. The dissonance between the event and his reaction is where the horror lies. He's so used to this level of mayhem that he can treat a demolition derby in his lobby as a standard customer service interaction. The trauma isn't just in the event itself, but in his complete and utter lack of surprise. This is his normal. This desensitization is perhaps the most tragic aspect of his character. The constant exposure to chaos and violence has worn him down to a nub. He no longer reacts with the appropriate level of panic or fear because those emotions have been exhausted. All that's left is a deep, bone-weary resignation. When he walks into the ocean in The Question, it's not a dramatic, sudden decision. It's the quiet, logical conclusion of a man who has run out of the energy to be surprised by his own misery. He has seen it all, endured it all, and all that's left is to simply stop. He is the ultimate cautionary tale of burnout, a man whose spirit has been so thoroughly eroded by his job that he has nothing left to give. Let's not forget the sheer physical impossibility of his life. The number of jobs he holds would require him to be in multiple places at once. In The Pizza, he's a car mechanic, a fast food worker, a video store clerk, and a pizza delivery hotline operator, all in the same day, all interacting with the same family. The show doesn't explain this with magic or clones, it just presents it as fact. Larry exists in a quantum state of perpetual employment. He's a localized paradox, a man who must simultaneously be everywhere at once to keep the town from falling apart. This isn't just a funny exaggeration, it's a hint at his true nature. He's not just a man, he is a fundamental force of the Elmore universe, the embodiment of labour itself, and like any force of nature, he is unfeeling, unending, and profoundly, deeply tired. The episode The Ad provides another layer to his exploitation. The Wattersons, in a desperate bid for money, rent out their house as a bed and breakfast. They scam a couple of goat tourists, Ethel and Bernie. While Larry isn't in this episode, the themes of desperation and the gig economy are his entire life. The Wattersons get a small taste of the scammy, desperate world of making a quick buck, a world Larry lives in every single day. They do it for one weekend, he does it for a lifetime. And unlike them, he doesn't have a chaotic family to fall back on. He just has his next shift. Think about the sheer noise he must endure. In The Words, Darwin becomes brutally honest and starts insulting everyone. Gumball and Darwin then get into a Street Fighter-style insult battle. Where does this happen? In the public spaces of Elmore, the mall, the school. Larry is the background audience for all of this. He has to listen to the constant cacophony of the town's residents working out their bizarre emotional issues in public. His life is the soundtrack to everyone else's therapy session, and he's not getting paid for the emotional damages. In The Awkwardness, Gumball and Hot Dog Guy spend an entire day in a state of escalating social discomfort, culminating in a chase scene through the mall where they are mistaken for shoplifters. Larry is the mall cop who has to pursue them, or he's the store clerk who has to witness their bizarre behaviour. Either way, he is once again caught in the orbit of someone else's personal drama. His job forces him to be the unwilling third wheel in every awkward encounter, the silent observer of every social faux pas. The physical laws of Elmore seem to specifically target him. In the finale, the Wattersons' accumulated chaos finally catches up to them, and the town turns on them. In the ensuing riot, buildings are destroyed, people are hurt. You know Larry is in there somewhere, his store being looted, his car being overturned, his sanity being sandblasted by the sheer force of the town's collective rage. He is the first casualty of any large-scale event, the unnamed civilian who always gets caught in the crossfire between the main characters and their latest catastrophe. And after all this, after all the pain and suffering, what does he have to show for it? Nothing. He lives in a small apartment, drives a beat-up car when it's not shrunk or stolen, and is in a constant state of financial anxiety. His tireless labour generates no wealth for himself. He is purely a conduit, a mechanism through which the economy functions, but he reaps none of its rewards. He is the ultimate exploited worker, a man who gives everything and receives nothing in return. It's a dark, cynical and surprisingly trenchant critique of the modern world, all hidden behind the smiling, tired face of a beige rock man. Let's also touch upon the moments he's forced into the role of an educator, a role he is clearly not paid for. In The Schooling, Gumball and Darwin are so incompetent at his jobs that he has to explain the very concept of work to them. He ultimately lets them try his jobs to teach them a lesson about the value of education. He's forced to become a mentor, a guidance counsellor, to the very children who are a primary source of his misery. It's a moment of profound patience and generosity that is, of course, completely unappreciated. Gumball's takeaway from the experience is that he should go to school so he doesn't end up like Larry, which is both the correct lesson and a deeply insulting one. And what about his one moment of pure, unadulterated joy? In the singing he gets to sing. He performs a song about healthy eating and another as backup for Principal Brown. In a world of constant transactional relationships, these are moments of genuine artistic expression. But they are brief. They are interruptions in his usual routine of suffering, and they are still in service of others. He's singing to educate Richard, or to help his boss woo his girlfriend. Even his art is not his own. It is a service he provides, another job on his endless list. The cyclical nature of his suffering is what makes it so horrifying. In The Laziest, his life is destroyed. In subsequent episodes, he's back, his life seemingly restored, with no explanation. This isn't a sign of resilience, it's a sign of his damnation. He's trapped in a narrative reset button. No matter how much he suffers, no matter how completely his life is annihilated, he will always be back behind the counter the next day, ready to endure it all over again. There is no learning, no growth, no escape. Just the loop. His life is a cosmic gif of a man getting hit in the face with a rake. Forever. This is why Larry Needlemeyer is such a haunting figure. He's not just a funny character. He's a mirror held up to the absurd cruelty of the world. He's a symbol of the thankless labour that keeps society running, the quiet desperation of a man just trying to get through his shift. His story is a long, slow-motion tragedy, punctuated by the laugh track of a world that doesn't even realise he's the one paying the price for all their fun. He is the ghost in the machine of Elmore, the tired, beaten-down soul that powers the whole ridiculous enterprise, and he never even gets a day off. Now let's consider the architectural integrity of his various workplaces. In The Check, the bank is demolished. In The Founder, the Hanax building collapses. In The Remote, Gumball's pursuit of a TV remote leads to his family fighting in and destroying a multi-level parking garage where Larry is presumably working. In The Heist, Richard drives his car through the wall of a convenience store thinking it's a drive-through. Larry's professional life is a portfolio of OSHA violations and structural failures. He is a man who has to worry about not just rude customers, but the literal collapse of his office building on a daily basis. And the one time he's not at work during the events of the night, he's so detached from normal human interaction that he thinks being arrested is part of a dream. This suggests he has no life outside of work. His identity is so completely fused with his labour that when he's not on the clock, his brain can't process reality correctly. The concept of leisure time is so foreign to him that his mind interprets it as a fantasy state. This is a level of workaholism that has crossed over into a severe psychological condition. He is a man who has forgotten how to simply exist. Let's also acknowledge the sheer emotional intelligence he is forced to display. In the decisions, he has to navigate Darwin's crippling indecisiveness. In the kids, he has to deal with Gumball and Darwin's rage-filled puberty voices. In the pizza, he has to take an order from a family that is actively screaming at each other. He is an unwilling therapist, a conflict mediator, a hostage negotiator, all while trying to remember if the customer wanted pickles or not. The amount of emotional energy he must expend just to survive a single transaction is more than most people use in a week. The episode The Points is another fantastic example of the broken economy he lives in. Gumball and Darwin are tricked by Tobias into doing chores for good points, a currency that doesn't exist. The episode is a satire of gamified labour and empty rewards. Larry's the one who has to sell Tobias the cosmic points in the video game that Tobias pays for with his parents' real money. Larry is the transactional layer between the real economy and the fake gamified one. He is the one who has to process the transaction that allows Tobias to exploit Gumball and Darwin. He is an unwilling cog in the machine of child labour exploitation. And the physical threats are not always grand and apocalyptic. Sometimes they are small, personal, and deeply weird. In The Virus, Terry, a hypochondriac paper bear, becomes convinced Gumball is infected with a deadly virus. Her paranoia leads to a town-wide panic. Larry is inevitably caught up in this. He's the one who has to deal with a customer who is suddenly terrified of germs, who is demanding hand sanitizer, who is accusing him of being a vector of disease. He has to deal with the public health crises of Elmore, which are almost always rooted in one person's profound psychological issues. What about his one moment of seeming power in the authority? It's not Larry, but Granny Jojo who represents overbearing control. The episode is about the dangers of being too safe, of bubble wrapping your children. Larry's existence is the opposite. He is constantly exposed to danger, with no protection whatsoever. He is the living embodiment of what happens when there is no authority, no safety net. He lives in the world that Granny Jojo fears, a world of sharp corners, hot stoves, and giant pink rabbits who steal from the register. His life is a silent argument against her philosophy, a testament to the fact that you can't protect yourself from everything, especially when everything is your daily reality. The cruelty of his world is so pervasive that it even infects the language. In The Words, Darwin learns to be direct, which he interprets as being brutally insulting. He goes on a rampage, hurting everyone's feelings. Larry's not a direct victim in this episode, but he is the one who has to hear it. He's the one behind the counter when a student walks in and starts verbally assaulting another. He is the background noise to every act of social aggression. His workplaces are the arenas for the town's daily emotional blood sports. And what does he get for all this? In the check, after the bank is destroyed and the check is revealed to be for $50, the Wattersons rejoice. They toss Louis in the air, celebrating their meagre reward. Larry is left standing amidst the rubble of his workplace, having just mediated a violent family dispute, and the resolution is a celebration over an amount of money that wouldn't even cover the cost of a new window. His suffering is not just unrewarded, it is actively trivialized. The scale of his problems is always massive, and the scale of everyone else's resolution is always tiny. The most heartbreaking part is that he never gives up. He never becomes cynical. He might get tired, he might get angry, he might have a complete existential breakdown and walk into the sea, but he always comes back. He always returns to his post. There is a deep, abiding sense of duty in him that is both his most heroic quality and the engine of his own destruction. He believes in the system, even when the system is a chaotic, nonsensical nightmare that is actively trying to kill him. He is a man of faith in a faithless world, and his persistence is both noble and utterly, utterly tragic. So when you see Larry Needlemeyer, don't just see a punchline. See the quiet dignity of a man doing an impossible job. See the resilience of a spirit that refuses to be completely extinguished, no matter how many times the universe tries to snuff it out. See the tragedy of a life spent in service of a world that doesn't deserve him. See the hero, not the one who slays dragons or saves princesses, but the one who shows up for his shift day after day in a world gone mad. He is the quiet, beige and profoundly broken heart of Elmore. Let's also explore the sheer lack of privacy he's afforded. In The Catfish, Gumball and Darwin are spying on Louis's online activity. This breach of privacy is the central conflict. But Larry's entire life is public. He works in public-facing jobs. He has no office, no cubicle. His workspace is a counter, a register, a driver's seat. He is constantly being watched by customers, by his managers, like the psychotic bear, and by the agents of chaos that are the Wattersons. He has no private space to retreat to, which makes his psychological breakdown in The Question all the more understandable. His only escape is to walk into the literal ocean, and the one time we see his home in The Laziest, it is immediately taken from him. His private sanctuary is revealed only to be immediately lost. This is a crucial detail. The show denies him even the comfort of a consistent personal space. His identity is so tied to his public function that he is not allowed a life behind closed doors. This reinforces the idea that he is not a person who works, but a worker who is, incidentally, a person. His humanity is secondary to his utility. This lack of personal space extends to his own body. In The Shippening, his body is used as a vessel for a forced romance. In The Gift, his retinas are damaged. In Halloween, his face is drawn on. His physical form is treated as public property, a canvas for other people's jokes and plot lines. He doesn't own his jobs, he doesn't own his home, and in many ways he doesn't even own his own body. He's a man who's been systematically stripped of every form of ownership and autonomy, leaving him with nothing but his exhaustion. Consider the sheer number of times he has been threatened with violence. In The Spoon, he's threatened with a rusty spoon. In The Refund, he's threatened by Richard in a biker jacket. In The Stars, he's threatened with financial ruin. In The Law, he is physically assaulted. In The Kids, he's threatened with a security guard. He lives in a constant state of low-grade fear. Every customer is a potential threat, every interaction a potential disaster. The emotional toll of living with that level of constant background anxiety is a form of torture in itself. And yet, he perseveres. There is a quiet strength to Larry that is often overlooked. He is the ultimate survivor. He has survived economic collapse, cosmic unravelling, physical assault and psychological warfare. He has been kidnapped, framed, shrunk and set on fire. And yet, he is still there. He is the cockroach of the Elmore economy. The one thing that will still be standing after the apocalypse, ready to ring up the other survivors for a can of beans. This resilience is not presented as heroic. It's presented as mundane. But in a world as hostile as Elmore, the simple act of surviving another day is a profound act of heroism. The tragedy is that this heroism is invisible to everyone around him. They don't see a survivor. They see a functionary. They see the guy who gives them their change. This invisibility is the final turn of the screw. He suffers in plain sight and no one notices. His pain is so constant that it has become part of the background, as unremarkable as the beige colour of his skin. He is the living embodiment of the phrase quiet desperation, a man screaming into a void that doesn't even have the decency to echo back. So, as we reach the deeper, darker waters of this iceberg, we must conclude that Larry Needlemeyer is not just a character. He is a statement. He is a commentary on the dehumanising nature of modern labour, the cosmic indifference of the universe, and the quiet, unending courage of a man who faces it all with a tired sigh and a price scanner. He's the most realistic character in a world of cartoons, and that is what makes him the most tragic. His problems are not fantastical. They are the everyday horrors of the working world, amplified to an apocalyptic scale. He is all of us, on our worst day, forever. Let's dive into the sheer absurdity of the customer complaints he must field. In The Schooling, Harold complains that his bottomless drink has a bottom. This is not a misunderstanding of a promotion. This is a fundamental failure to grasp the concept of metaphor. Larry has to serve a populace that takes idiomatic expressions literally. Imagine having to explain to a customer that all you can eat does not mean they are allowed to eat the table. This is his daily reality. He's not just a service worker. He's an English teacher, a philosopher, and a reality coach for a town of people who have lost their grip on consensus reality. And the one time he tries to embrace the absurdity, it fails. In the spin-offs, his show The Barcode Cowboy is a parody of his life. The intro is a heroic montage of his many jobs, set to triumphant music. It's a fantasy version of his life where his labour is seen as noble and exciting. But the show itself is just him, scanning an item very slowly. The reality of his work is so soul-crushingly dull that even a fictionalised version of it can't make it interesting. The joke is that his life is too boring for television, even a fake low-budget version. It's a metatextual insult of the highest order. Consider the total lack of support he receives from any official institution. The police, as seen in The Heist and The Law, are more likely to arrest him than help him. His corporate overlords, as seen in The Refund and The Founder, are either violent psychopaths or dangerously incompetent. There is no HR department he can go to, no union to protect him. He is utterly alone, a free agent in a shark tank with no one to watch his back. His survival is entirely dependent on his own wits and his seemingly infinite capacity to absorb punishment. And what about his one true moment of power? The 5-minute break in The Schooling. For 5 minutes a year he is free. It's a ridiculously small amount of time, but it's his. And what does he do with it? He uses it to try and teach 2 children a life lesson. He doesn't use it to relax, to escape, to do something for himself. He uses his one moment of freedom in service of others. This is the ultimate proof of his character. Even when he is off the clock, he is still working. He is so fundamentally defined by his sense of duty that he cannot conceive of a life, even for 5 minutes, that is not in service of the chaotic, ungrateful world he inhabits. The final insult, the absolute cherry on top of his mountain of suffering, is Gumball's parting line in that same episode. After experiencing the horror of his life for 5 minutes, Gumball's conclusion is that he needs to go to school to get a better job so he doesn't waste his life making money like Larry does every day. Gumball sees his life not as a tragic sacrifice, but as a waste. He completely misses the point. He doesn't see the heroism, the necessity, the cosmic importance of Larry's labour. He just sees a guy with a bunch of bad jobs, and Larry, ever the stoic, just smiles and takes it. He absorbs the ultimate insult, the complete invalidation of his entire existence, because that's his final and most important job. Let's not forget the episode The Pest. Though Larry's role is not in the plot, the setting of the school being a place of torment for Aeneas by Billy is a microcosm of Larry's world. Larry is the Aeneas of the Elmore economy. He is the small, intelligent and reasonable entity constantly being harassed by the Billies of the world. the unreasonable, demanding, and often nonsensical customers and employers. He is intellectually and morally superior to the challenges he faces, but he is powerless to stop them, forced to endure the annoying behaviour of those around him because the system demands it. He is perpetually in a state of being bullied by the entire town, and there's no Gumball to come and fight his battles for him. And then there's the sheer visual horror of his existence as portrayed in The Revolt. The episode features objects coming to life to protest their objectification. Larry is not an object, but he is treated like one. He's a tool, a utility, a means to an end for every other character. The episode's message about seeing the humanity in inanimate things is a message that no one in Elmore has ever applied to Larry himself. He is the most objectified person in the entire show, a living, breathing cash register that is expected to have no feelings, no desires, and no breaking point. The revolt of the objects is a rebellion he should be leading, but he can't. He has to work. Let's re-examine the founder from a different angle. Richard's fun initiatives include replacing the elevator with a slide. This seems like a whimsical, if impractical, idea. But what does it mean for Larry, who has to work there? It means he can't easily move between floors. It means that if he works in the mailroom, he now has to climb multiple flights of stairs to deliver a single package. Richard's fun is Larry's logistical nightmare. Every single improvement Richard makes to the workplace is a new obstacle, a new inefficiency, a new source of frustration for the people who actually have to work there. Richard is the quintessential out-of-touch manager, and Larry is his primary victim. The episode The Intelligence is another crucial piece of the puzzle. The internet, an actual character, absorbs all of humanity's intelligence, causing society to regress to a medieval state. People forget how to use technology, how to read, how to function in a modern world. What does this mean for Larry? It means his customers are now even more incompetent than they were before. It means he has to explain the concept of money to a man who thinks a rock is a valid form of currency. It means his entire world, which was already a circus of idiocy, has devolved into a pre-industrial nightmare. And you know, even in that world, he's probably still expected to make change. And what of his physical health? In the singing, he sings a song to Richard about the dangers of a high-calorie diet. He is aware of health and nutrition. Yet, he works in fast food restaurants, convenience stores and pizza parlours. He's forced to sell the very products that he knows are harmful. He's a doctor forced to prescribe poison. This internal conflict, this hypocrisy forced upon him by his employment, must add another layer of psychological stress to his already overburdened mind. He's a man who knows better, but is powerless to do better, because the customer is always right, even when the customer is ordering a one-way ticket to a heart attack. The final, most damning piece of evidence of his torment is the complete lack of any happy ending. The show has reset buttons. It has moments of emotional resolution for the main family, but it has none for Larry. He never gets a promotion. He never wins the lottery. He never finds a job he loves. His story is a flat line of misery. There is no arc, no growth, no catharsis, just the endless, grinding repetition of his suffering. He is a character trapped in the first act of a tragedy that has no second or third. His beginning is his end, and his end is always just another shift at work. He is Elmore's eternal flame, and he is perpetually on fire. Let's consider the sheer environmental hostility of his workplaces. In The Possession, Richard's old refrigerator turns out to be a gateway to a frozen dimension of memories. The Wattersons have to venture inside to save him. The warranty for this supernatural appliance is something Larry, in his capacity as a store clerk, would have had to deal with. Imagine a customer returning a product because it's a portal to a pocket dimension. That's a customer service call Larry has probably had to field. He is the IT support for a world where the technology is actively trying to rewrite the laws of physics and trap you in your own nostalgia. In The Master, the The Wattersons play a live-action role-playing game that spills into their real lives. They fight imaginary monsters and bicker amongst themselves. Where do they get their supplies? The snacks, the dice, the rule books? From a store, run by Larry. He is the quartermaster for their descent into fantasy. He sells them the tools of their escapism, all while he is firmly, painfully trapped in reality. He is the one who has to work so that others can play. This dynamic is the very core of his character, the fundamental injustice of his existence. And what about the sheer physical strain of his many roles in the schooling? He's not just a cashier, he's a road worker, a janitor, a package delivery guy. These are physically demanding jobs. He has to lift heavy things, clean up disgusting messes, and walk for miles, and he has to do all of them, every day. The cumulative physical toll on his body must be immense. He is a man in a constant state of exhaustion, a body being worn down to its component parts by the sheer volume of his labour. The fact that he hasn't crumbled into a pile of beige dust is a miracle of cartoon physics, or perhaps a testament to his unbreakable, if deeply unfortunate, will to survive. The episode of The Candidate shows the kids at school descending into a Lord of the Flies-style tribal conflict after being locked in a room. While Larry isn't present, the episode demonstrates the fragility of Elmore's social order. It takes only a few hours without adult supervision for the children to devolve into a warring, apocalyptic society. Larry is the adult supervision for the entire town. He is the one who maintains the thin veneer of order that prevents everyone from immediately resorting to primitive violence over the last cookie. His presence is a silent, stabilising force, and the moment it's gone, as we saw in the pizza, the world eats itself. And let's not forget the emotional toll of dealing with the town's rampant narcissism. In The One, Gumball becomes obsessed with the idea that Tobias wants to be his best friend, leading to a series of misunderstandings. In The Test, Gumball's ego is so fragile that getting loser on an internet quiz sends him into an identity crisis. Larry has to serve these people. He has to deal with customers whose egos are as fragile as a spun sugar bird, whose sense of self-worth is so dependent on external validation that a misplaced soda order can trigger a full-blown identity crisis. He is a therapist for a town of raging narcissists, and his only tool is a price scanner. The most perfect encapsulation of his plight might be the simple act of trying to propose to his girlfriend in The Shippening. Before Sarah's magic notebook intervenes, he is at Joyful Burger, on one knee, trying to have a genuine, heartfelt moment of romance, and he's doing it at work. His life is so consumed by his jobs that he has to propose to his girlfriend during his lunch break, at one of his many places of employment. He cannot separate his personal life from his professional life, because his professional life has devoured his personal life whole. There is no work-life balance for Larry. There is only work-life fusion, a monstrous hybrid of labour and existence from which he can never escape. And the ultimate cruelty is that no one learns. The Wattersons never learn to be more considerate. The town never learns to be more self-sufficient. The system never changes. Larry's suffering is a renewable resource. No matter how much he gives, the world will always demand more. He's a man running on a treadmill that is powering the entire city, and the speed is always increasing. He's not just a character in a cartoon. He is a warning. He's a symbol of a world that takes and takes and takes, and never gives anything back. He is the ghost in the machine, and the machine is a nightmare. Let's delve into the specific language used against him. In The Stars, Gumball and Darwin don't just give him a bad review, they write scathing personal attacks. The review Gumball dictates is filled with such vitriol that it makes Richard and Darwin wince. This isn't constructive criticism, it's verbal abuse. Larry is subjected to a level of personal invective that goes far beyond a simple customer complaint, and he has to take it. He has to internalise it and offer them free stuff as an apology. The power imbalance is so extreme that he is forced to reward his own abusers. This is straight up gaslighting on a commercial scale, and consider the sheer futility of his attempts at self-improvement. In the laziest, he had successfully overcome his nature. He had fought against his inherent laziness and won. He had built a life. This is a story of triumph, of self-actualization. But the narrative of Elmore does not allow for such triumphs, at least not for Larry. His victory is treated as a temporary state, an anomaly that must be corrected. Gumball and Darwin's intervention is a cosmic regression, forcing him back into the role the universe has assigned him. The suffering slacker. The man whose potential is eternally, tragically unfulfilled. The episode, The Anybody, is also a profound violation of his identity. Clayton doesn't just look like Larry. He becomes him. He takes on his roles, his jobs. This implies that Larry is not a person, but a position, a title that can be filled by anyone. His individuality is so negligible that a shapeshifter can perfectly replicate his entire existence without anyone noticing. He is the ultimate replaceable worker, a man whose unique identity has been so eroded by his function that he is, in essence, an anybody. And what about his dreams? The one time we see his subconscious in the night. It is a hellscape of his own making, a labyrinth of his endless jobs. He has no fantasies of escape, no dreams of a better life. His mind has been so thoroughly colonized by his labour that it can only dream of more labour. This is the ultimate sign of a broken spirit. He is a man whose imagination has been extinguished, leaving him with nothing but the bleak, repetitive reality of his own life, playing on a loop forever. The final, crushing evidence of his damnation is his relationship with the universe's reset button. The Wattersons can destroy their house, their car, the entire town, and by the next episode, everything is back to normal. This is a blessing for them, a cosmic get-out-of-jail-free card. But for Larry, it is a curse. It means that no matter what happens, no matter how much he suffers, nothing ever changes. His life being destroyed in the laziest doesn't matter, because the reset button puts him back on the hamster wheel. The apocalypse in the pizza doesn't matter, because the reset button rebuilds the town so he can go back to work. The reset button is not a tool of renewal for him. It is the mechanism of his eternal recurrence, the guarantee that he will have to relive his worst day every day for the rest of his life. So, when we talk about the lore of Gumball, we often focus on the void, on Rob's villainy, on the strange nature of the Watterson family, but the deepest, darkest lore of all is written on the tired face of Larry Needlemeyer. He is the show's secret protagonist, the tragic hero whose story is told in the margins, in the background, in the quiet moments of suffering between the loud, colourful explosions of the main plot. He's the price of comedy, the man who suffers so that we can laugh, and that is the most unsettling punchline of all. Let's examine the few times Larry is not at a job, because these moments are just as telling. In The Pact, Gumball and Principal Brown are on the bus discussing their relationship problems. Larry is not on this bus as a driver. Where is he? Probably at one of his other 29 jobs. The episode highlights the interconnectedness of the characters' personal lives, but Larry is excluded from this. He doesn't have personal problems that he discusses with others. He is the backdrop for other people's personal problems. His existence is so thoroughly professionalised that he is not allowed a narrative of his own. In The Transformation, the Fitzgerald family has a major argument about Penny coming out of her shell. This family drama takes place in their home. Gumball is invited as a mediator. Larry is nowhere to be seen. The episode is a deep dive into family traditions, personal identity, and the conflict between generations. These are themes that could apply to anyone, but Larry's never given the narrative space to explore them. We don't know his family. We don't know his traditions. We only know his jobs. He is a character without a past, without a family, without a story of his own, which makes him the perfect blank slate for the universe to project all of its suffering onto. and let's look at the sheer physical comedy directed at him in the stars. Gumball and Darwin's campaign of one-star reviews forces him to create things out of thin air. He has to create a new animal for the zoo, resulting in a disfigured elephant-bird hybrid. He has to create his own movie, playing every single role. These are not the actions of a normal employee. These are the frantic, desperate acts of a man being held hostage by a Yelp review. He's forced to become a creator, a god, a one-man film studio, all because two children have discovered the one weapon he is powerless against, a bad rating. It's a surreal, horrifying escalation of the power of the consumer over the worker. The ultimate irony is that in the revolt, the objects of Elmore rise up against their human oppressors. The mini-fridge, the toaster, the toilet brush, they all demand to be treated with respect, to be seen as more than just their function. Larry should be their king. He's the most objectified person in the entire series. He's treated like a tool, a utility, a thing to be used and discarded. But he doesn't join the revolt. He can't. Because he's probably at work, trying to sell things to the very objects that are currently trying to overthrow humanity. He is so trapped in his role that he is forced to serve his own symbolic oppressors, and the one time he seems to get a win in the job, it's immediately revealed to be the cause of a cosmic catastrophe. Firing Richard is the correct business decision, but in the insane logic of Elmore, it's the wrong cosmic decision. Larry is punished for being a good manager. He is punished for making a rational choice. The universe has rigged the game against him so thoroughly that even when he does the right thing, it's the wrong thing. He cannot win. He is not allowed to win. His purpose is not to succeed, but to endure. Let's consider the sheer existential horror of his job at the boba factory in the schooling. He's an employee at a factory where robots do all the work. He is immediately fired because he is not needed. This is a glimpse into a potential future where his labour is no longer necessary, and what happens? He is discarded. This is the ultimate fear of the worker, to be made obsolete. For Larry, this isn't a distant threat, it's a casual afternoon occurrence. He is so disposable that he can be replaced by a more efficient machine at a moment's notice. His only value is his ability to perform tasks that a robot hasn't been programmed to do yet. And what about his brief role in the mess? Gumball and Darwin, in a sleep-deprived haze, go on a bizarre adventure. At one point, they order a cab. Who is the cab driver? It's not explicitly stated, but it's probably Larry. He has to pick up two children who are not fully conscious, who are experiencing time skips, and drive them to an unknown destination. He is the designated driver for the town's collective bad trip. The sheer risk and absurdity of that single fare is a testament to the daily nightmare he inhabits. The final, and perhaps most damning piece of evidence is the episode The Faith. The colour is draining from the world, a physical manifestation of a loss of hope and joy, all because Alan the balloon has lost his faith in people. The episode shows the consequences of this despair. Society collapses. The football teams riot. The town is covered in graffiti. The garbage piles up, tearing a hole in the ozone layer. This is what Elmore looks like without hope. But it's also what Elmore looks like without Larry. The jobs that aren't being done, the garbage collection, the street cleaning, are his jobs. The episode isn't just about Alan's faith. It's about the fact that Larry's labour is the physical manifestation of the town's collective hope. When he stops working, the world literally becomes a grey, hopeless wasteland. He is not just the linchpin of the economy. He is the linchpin of their very will to live. So, as we plumb the absolute depths of the Larry Needlemeyer iceberg, a clear and terrifying picture emerges. He's a man condemned to a life of thankless, endless, and cosmically necessary suffering. His pain is the fuel that powers the whimsical world of Elmore. His exhaustion is the foundation upon which their zany adventures are built. He's the silent, tragic hero, the beige-coloured Atlas, holding a world on his shoulders that doesn't even know he's there. And he will be there, tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, ready for his next shift, ready for his next punishment, ready to endure it all, because in the amazing world of Gumball, someone has to. And it's always, always Larry. Let's not glide past the sheer physical and emotional invasion he experiences in the heart. Mr. Robinson's heart, a separate sentient being, is ripped out of his chest by Gumball. While Larry isn't the victim here, the episode establishes a horrifying precedent in the Elmore universe. Your internal organs are not safe. They can be removed, reasoned with, and even serenaded. For a man like Larry, who is already under constant external assault, the idea that he is not even safe from himself, that his own body could betray him or be used against him, adds a layer of deep Cronenbergian body horror to his existence. He's a man whose very anatomy is potentially just another prop in someone else's emotional journey. Consider the episode The Vegging. Gumball and Darwin attempt to spend a whole day doing absolutely nothing, a concept so foreign to Larry it might as well be an alien language. During their attempt, they order a burrito delivery. Larry is the delivery man. He is forced to cater to their extreme sloth, shoving food through a mail slot and launching it with a shovel. He is not just providing a service. He is an enabler of a level of laziness that is a direct insult to his own life's work. He has to facilitate the very lifestyle that is the polar opposite of his own, a constant reminder of the freedom and leisure he will never have. The tip he receives is a single coin that is immediately knocked off the shovel, a perfect metaphor for his entire economic situation. Payment is offered, but never truly received. And what of the one time he's shown not as a worker, but as a victim of a natural disaster? In The Storm, Masami, enraged, turns into a literal storm cloud and rampages through the school. Larry's not shown, but his businesses are. The mall, the stores, the restaurants, they are all in the path of this sentient weather event. His workplaces are not just vulnerable to the Wattersons, but to the emotional outbursts of their classmates. He is a man whose livelihood is at the mercy of adolescent mood swings. Imagine having to file an insurance claim for damage due to sentient cloud rage. It's an impossible existence. Let's also look at the episode The Father. Frankie, Richard's estranged criminal father, returns and tries to bond with his son. Their bonding activities are a series of petty crimes: stealing a football, pickpocketing, using a getaway car. Larry is the one who has to deal with the consequences. He's the store owner who gets pickpocketed, the citizen whose car is used for a robbery. He is the unnamed victim in every one of Frankie's father-son moments. He is the collateral damage of another family's therapy session, a silent extra in the movie of their reconciliation, and his only role is to get robbed. The episode The Cringe is about the inescapable awkwardness between Gumball and Hot Dog Guy. Their shared history is a minefield of embarrassing memories that makes their every interaction a new form of psychological torture. Larry is not a part of this dynamic, but he is the facilitator of it. The awkward encounters happen on the bus he drives, in the store he works at. He is the stage on which their cringe-worthy play is performed. He has to stand by and watch as two people generate a level of social discomfort so powerful it can echo through time, and his only job is to ask if they'll be paying with cash or credit. And then there's the cage. Mr. Cornell, the teacher, gets into a misunderstanding and ends up in a mixed martial arts fight. The episode is a satire of toxic masculinity and the absurdity of fight culture. Larry's role is, as always, peripheral but crucial. Who sells the tickets to the fight? Who sells the hot dogs at the stadium? Who has to clean up the stadium after Mr. Cornell is inevitably and brutally smashed into a pulp? Larry. He is the logistical backbone of the town's most violent and nonsensical spectacles. He profits from the pain of others, not out of malice, but because that's just another one of his endless soul-crushing jobs. The ultimate proof of his entrapment comes from a simple line in The Schooling. After Gumball and Darwin experience his life, they ask how he deals with it all. He smiles sadly and says, The threat of getting kicked out from not paying his rent is a great motivation. That's it. That's the core of his entire existence. He is not working for fulfillment or for passion or for the betterment of society. He is working out of pure primal fear. The fear of homelessness, the fear of destitution is the only thing keeping him going. He is a man running from a monster, and the monster is poverty. It's the most brutally honest and deeply depressing motivation for any character in the entire series. And so, the narrative comes full circle. Larry Needlemeyer is not just a collection of jobs, he is a prisoner of them. He is a man so thoroughly trapped by his economic reality, by the cosmic demands of his universe, and by the relentless chaos of the Watterson family, that he has ceased to be a person in the traditional sense. He is a function. He is a utility. He is the suffering, load-bearing pillar of Elmore, and the moment he stops, everything falls apart. His tragedy is not that he has to work so hard. His tragedy is that his work is the only thing that matters, and the only thing that is never, ever enough. Let's go deeper. Let's talk about the specific nature of the jobs he's forced into. They're not just numerous. They are the most thankless, soul-crushing jobs imaginable. He's always in a customer-facing role, meaning he is on the front line, absorbing the first wave of every single character's bad mood, unreasonable demand, and existential crisis. He has no buffer. There is no manager to appeal to, unless that manager is a violent teddy bear. He is the end of the line. This is a recipe for psychological annihilation, and he lives it every single day. Consider his job in The Petals. While not a major role, the setting of the school and the drama unfolding within it is his world. He's the janitor, the groundskeeper, the man who has to clean up after Leslie's wilting petals and Gumball's disastrous attempts to help. Every scheme, every antic, every single piece of cartoon slapstick leaves a physical mess, and it is Larry's job to restore the world to its pristine, pre-episode state, only for it to be destroyed all over again the next day. He is a janitor in the court of chaos, endlessly mopping up the spills of the gods, and the sheer lack of upward mobility is staggering. He's been working these jobs for years, and he never gets a promotion. He's never shown managing his own store. In The Founder, his own company is taken over by Richard, and he remains a low-level employee. In The Job, he's the manager of Furvidus Pizza, but he's still the one taking Richard's impossible order over the phone. Even when he has a title, he is still performing the most menial labour. There is no ladder to climb for Larry. There is only the endless flat plane of service work stretching out to the horizon in all directions. Let's re-examine the anybody. Clayton's ability to perfectly mimic Larry is not just about the uniform. It's about the fact that Larry's personality has been so eroded by his job that it has become a series of programmed responses. "Can I help you?" "That'll be $5. "Have a nice day." Clayton isn't impersonating a man, he's impersonating a script. Larry has been forced to become an automaton, a flesh and blood self-checkout machine. The horror is not that his identity was stolen, but that he had so little identity left to steal in the first place. And what about his one attempt to fight back against the system in The Stars? He doesn't just try to make the review website permanent, he tries to give it 5 stars. He tries to validate the very system that is tormenting him. This is a classic symptom of Stockholm Syndrome. He has been held hostage by the service economy for so long that he has begun to identify with his captors. He sees the system of ratings and reviews not as a weapon used against him, but as a source of ultimate power. He doesn't want to destroy the system. He wants to be the one in control of it. It's a tragic, twisted desire for power, born from a lifetime of complete powerlessness. The episode The Neighbour also adds a strange layer to his torment. Gumball and Darwin are trying to learn Gary's name. They are so inept at social interaction that they resort to elaborate schemes. Who do they encounter during these schemes? Larry. He's the one they have to interact with at the mall, at the charity drive. He is the constant, the backdrop for their social incompetence. He has to witness their bizarre, misguided attempts at friendship, all while trying to do his job. He's the unwilling audience for every awkward moment in Elmore, and the final, crushing detail is his voice. He always sounds tired. He always sounds resigned. There is a deep, abiding weariness in his every line reading. It's the voice of a man who has seen too much, done too much, and been paid too little. It's the voice of a man who has accepted his fate. He doesn't rage against the machine anymore, not really. He just sighs and rings up the next customer. That sigh is the sound of his soul slowly leaking out, one transaction at a time. It is the theme song of the truly, deeply and cosmically defeated. Let's bring it back to the core of his tragedy, his relationship with the Wattersons. They are not just his customers, they are his personal demons, a 4-person and 1 fish apocalypse that follows him from job to job. In the money, they bankrupt themselves through sheer stupidity, and he's the one who has to tell them. In the pizza, they push him to a mental breakdown. In the refund, they hold him psychologically hostage. They are a force of nature, and he is the tree that is perpetually in the path of their hurricane. His story is inextricably linked with theirs, but he is always on the receiving end of their chaos, never a beneficiary of their occasional accidental triumphs. And the ultimate cruelty is that they don't even seem to realise it's the same person. They go from the grocery store to the pizza place to the video store, and they treat the man behind the counter as a new, fresh target for their nonsense. They don't seem to connect the dots to realise that the man they tormented at lunch is the same man they are now tormenting at dinner. To them, he is not Larry Needlemeyer. He is just a series of uniforms, a collection of job titles, a faceless entity whose only purpose is to serve them. This complete lack of recognition is the ultimate invalidation of his existence. He suffers for them. He holds their world together for them, and they don't even know his name. So as this exhaustive deconstruction of a simple background character comes to a non-conclusion, as the style demands, we are left with a haunting portrait. It is a portrait of a man whose life is a monument to the horrors of the modern world, amplified through the twisted lens of a children's cartoon. He is the unsung, unseen, and unbelievably unlucky hero of a story that will never acknowledge him. He is a man who asked for nothing and was given less than that. He is the quiet tragedy at the heart of a loud comedy, a constant nagging reminder that for the amazing world of Gumball to exist, the mundane world of Larry Needlemeyer must be a living hell. Let's consider the episode The Wish. Gumball and Darwin make a wish that their teacher, Miss Simeon, would soften up. They believe she transforms into a neck pillow. This episode, while not featuring Larry, is about the dangers of careless desires and misunderstandings. This is the very essence of Larry's suffering. He's a constant victim of other people's careless desires. The Wattersons desire a pizza, and he is kidnapped. Gumball desires a refund, and he is psychologically tortured. The town desires a functioning society, and he is forced into a life of endless labour. He is the neck pillow of Elmore, the soft, inanimate object that everyone projects their needs and frustrations onto without ever considering the man underneath. And what about the factory? The episode is a musical about the bleakness of working at the Rainbow Factory. The employees sing about their monotonous, painful lives. Larry doesn't work at the factory, but his life is a macro version of this. He doesn't have one monotonous job, he has dozens. He's living the musical of the factory every single day, but his version has more locations and even less of a chance for a happy ending. The employees at the factory at least have each other, a community of shared suffering. Larry suffers alone, the sole member of the Every Job in Town union. In The Agent, the school runs out of toilet paper, a minor inconvenience that is treated like a major crisis. This is a perfect metaphor for Larry's role. He is the toilet paper of Elmore. He's a basic, necessary utility that everyone takes for granted until he's gone. And when he's gone, As we saw in the pizza, society immediately descends into a filthy, chaotic mess. He is the one-ply barrier between civilization and barbarism, and he is constantly being flushed away by the needs of others. Let's also look at the web. Nicole is terrified of the dangers of the internet. The episode is about online safety and the generation gap. Larry is caught in the middle of this. He has to run businesses that have an online presence, dealing with the cyberbullying of the stars, while also serving customers like Nicole, who might try to pay for an online order by inserting cash into their disk drive. He has to be fluent in both the analog and digital worlds, and he is abused in both. He is a man with a foot in 2 different centuries, and both of them are kicking him. And the final crushing blow to his psyche must be the sheer, unadulterated stupidity of the populace he serves. In The Brain, Anais face-palms herself into a coma because of her family's idiocy. Larry has to deal with this level of idiocy from the entire town every single day. He doesn't have the luxury of face-palming himself into unconsciousness. He has to stay awake. He has to process the transaction. He has to ask the man who is trying to pay with a leaf if he wants a bag. The level of mental fortitude required to not follow Anais into a self-induced coma is a testament to his almost superhuman endurance. He is a genius of patience, trapped in a world of fools. So, what is the ultimate conclusion? There isn't one. That's the point. Larry's story doesn't end. It just continues. Tomorrow, he'll wake up, put on his beige uniform and go to work. He will be underpaid, overworked and abused. He will hold the fabric of reality together with his bare, rocky hands, and no one will notice. He is a character in a perpetual state of crisis, a man whose life is a running gag that stopped being funny years ago and has now crossed over into the realm of pure existential horror. He is the silent scream at the centre of a Technicolor world, and he is, without a doubt, the most tragic figure in modern animation. Let that sink in. Let's take a moment to analyse the episode The Parents. Nicole is reunited with her estranged parents, and the episode delves into a deep history of familial resentment, insane expectations and emotional trauma. It's a surprisingly mature look at the baggage that families carry. Where is Larry in all this? He is at the supermarket where the inciting incident happens. Nicole fights with her father over a tray of corned beef. Larry is the employee who has to watch this deeply personal, decades-old family drama explode in the canned goods aisle. He's the one who has to clean up the mess after Nicole knocks over a shelf in a fit of rage. He is the silent, underpaid witness to the raw, primal scream of generational trauma, and he probably just wanted to restock the beans. In The Intelligence, the internet's malfunctioning leads to a societal regression. The citizens of Elmore become medieval peasants, losing all knowledge of modern life. Think of the implications for Larry. All of his jobs are based on modern infrastructure, cash registers, credit card machines, delivery vehicles. In this new world, his skills are useless. He's a man built for a system that no longer exists. Is he freed from his labour? No. He's probably just forced into a new, even worse job, like village idiot, or official rock to be thrown at things. His suffering is so fundamental that it would persist even in a different historical era. Let's not forget the sheer physical comedy of his interaction with Gumball in The Loophole. Gumball and Darwin are trying to reprogram Bear, and in the process they decide to uphold all laws no matter how absurd. They go to the mall, where Larry is presumably working. The chaos that Bear would unleash by enforcing ancient forgotten laws would inevitably fall on Larry's shoulders. He would be the one getting a ticket for having an unkempt moustache, or for walking on the cracks in the pavement. He is a magnet for bureaucratic nonsense, the prime target for any and all forms of systemic absurdity. And the one time he gets to be a hero, in his own mind, in The Barcode Cowboy, it's a fantasy. It's a dream of a world where his labour is valued, where his actions are seen as heroic. The fact that this can only exist in a fictional TV show within the show is the most damning indictment of his reality. He has to escape into a fantasy of his own life just to feel a sliver of the respect he deserves. It is a deeply sad and poignant commentary on the need for validation in a world that offers none. The episode The Potion is another perfect example of his casual victimization. Gumball and Darwin, trying to shrink Hector, create a potion. They test it by dropping it on a car. Whose car? Larry's car. It shrinks. The episode then moves on. The plot is about Hector. The shrunken car is just a gag. But for Larry, it's a catastrophe. He now has to drive a car the size of a shoebox. His insurance rates are probably a nightmare. The universe uses his property as a test subject for its magical experiments, and he is left to deal with the miniaturized fallout. And what of his emotional state? We see him snap. We see him break down. But what about the quiet moments? The moments between jobs, the commute from the pizza place to the gas station? What does he think about? Does he dream of a better life? Or has he been so thoroughly beaten down that he can no longer even conceive of one? The show never tells us, and that silence is perhaps the most terrifying part of all. His internal world is a complete mystery, a blank space that we can only fill with our own worst fears about what a life like his would do to a person. So, as we conclude this deep, dark dive into the life of Elmore's most unfortunate resident, we must ask ourselves, is there any hope for Larry? The answer, based on the evidence, is a resounding, soul-crushing no. He is a character in a comedy, and his suffering is the engine of that comedy. For him to find happiness, for him to escape his fate, the show itself would have to end. He's a narrative prisoner serving a life sentence in a Technicolor jail, and his only crime was choosing to go to work. Let's consider the episode The Ollie, a story about Gumball pretending to be a skateboarder to seem cool. This is a story about social pressure and the fear of being seen as a fraud. Larry's entire existence is a performance. He has to pretend to be happy to serve customers. He has to pretend to be patient when he's furious. He has to pretend to be fine when his life is falling apart. He is the ultimate actor, playing the role of the content service worker every single day. Unlike Gumball, he doesn't get to admit he's a fraud. He has to maintain the performance, because if he doesn't, he loses his job, and as we know, that means the end of the world. In The Uncle, Gumball befriends Ocho to get closer to his famous uncle, Mario. The episode is about using people for personal gain. Larry is the ultimate used person. Every character in Elmore uses him, not for fame, but for basic sustenance and services. He is the means to everyone's end. He is the human equivalent of a power-up, a resource to be consumed and then forgotten. The episode highlights the transactional nature of relationships in Elmore, and Larry is on the losing end of every single transaction. And what about the weirdo? The episode is about Susie, a character so strange that she's a target for bullies. Gumball and Darwin try to make her normal to protect her. Larry is the epitome of normal. He is aggressively, painfully average. He is the beige background against which the colourful weirdness of Elmore stands out. And yet, his normality does not protect him. In fact, it makes him a target. His refusal to engage with the absurdity of the world, his insistence on following rules and procedures, is what makes him the perfect victim for it. His normality is his curse. Let's also look at the possession. The family's old fridge is possessed by Richard's nostalgic memories. This episode is about the danger of living in the past. Larry is a man with no past, at least none that we are shown besides the tragic tale of Lazy Larry. He's not allowed the luxury of nostalgia. He must always be in the present, dealing with the current crisis, the customer in front of him. He has no time to look back because the present is too demanding, too relentless. He is a man untethered from his own history, forced to live in a perpetual, exhausting now. The episode The Master has the family playing a role-playing game. It's about escapism, about becoming someone else to solve your problems. Larry has no such escape. He cannot pretend to be a barbarian or a wizard. He can only be Larry, the cashier, the clerk, the janitor. The fantasy worlds that the Wattersons can dive into are a luxury he cannot afford. His reality is too pressing, too immediate. He is the one who has to work while others play games, both literally and metaphorically. And the ultimate proof of his entrapment is the very structure of the show. Gumball is a show that loves to break the fourth wall, to play with narrative conventions. Characters are aware they are in a cartoon, but Larry never is. He is one of the few characters who is completely, unself-consciously trapped within the fiction. He doesn't know he's a running gag. He doesn't know his suffering is for our entertainment. He believes his life is real. And that knowledge, that he is the only one who doesn't get the joke, is the most tragic thing of all. He is a man in a prison who doesn't even know he's in a prison, which makes the walls all the more real. So the next time you see him, handing over a burger or scanning a can of beans, take a moment of silence. You're witnessing a tragedy of cosmic proportions, a story of a man whose only crime was showing up for work, and whose punishment is to do so forever. He is the beating, broken heart of Elmore, and his suffering is the rhythm that keeps the whole insane cartoon dancing, and he will never, ever get a day off. Let's consider The BFFs, an episode where Gumball's old best friend Fuzzy turns out to be a psychotic, possessive monster. This is a story about toxic friendships. Larry's relationship with the entire town of Elmore is a toxic friendship. The town needs him, relies on him, but it also abuses him, takes him for granted and discards him when he's no longer useful. He is in a codependent relationship with an entire civilization, and he's the only one who's getting hurt. He is the Gumball to Elmore's Fuzzy, trapped in a friendship that is actively, dangerously unhealthy. In The Inquisition, Superintendent Evil, a live-action human, tries to make the cartoon world of Elmore more normal and realistic. He fails, of course, because the show's reality rejects normalcy. But think about what this means for Larry. He is the most normal character in the show. He operates on a logic that is closer to our own than to the cartoon physics of his world. In a way, Superintendent Evil's mission is to make everyone else more like Larry. And the show's ultimate conclusion is that this is a terrible idea, that this would ruin everything. The show itself rejects the very concept of the normalcy that Larry represents. He is an ideological island in an ocean of cartoon madness, and the spin-offs is the ultimate meta-commentary on his fate. Rob hijacks the show to try and find a replacement for Gumball. He cycles through various spin-offs, each a different genre, a different style. Larry's spin-off, The Barcode Cowboy, is a Western-style intro followed by the mundane reality of his job. This is the show telling us, explicitly, that a show about Larry would be boring. His heroism is not the stuff of exciting television. It's the quiet, slow, unglamorous heroism of endurance. The show acknowledges his importance and, in the same breath, dismisses him as uninteresting. It is the ultimate act of narrative cruelty. Let's not forget the mess. The episode is a masterclass in chaotic, non-linear storytelling, reflecting Gumball and Darwin's sleep-deprived state. They jump from one bizarre scenario to another, with no memory of how they got there. Larry is not a major player, but the world they navigate is his world. The police car they wake up in, the fair they find themselves at, the stores they stumble through, these are all his workplaces. He is the invisible thread connecting their chaotic vignettes, the man who has to clean up after their surrealist joyride through reality. And finally, the future. Rob kidnaps Banana Barbara to force her to paint the future, to warn him of a coming disaster. The episode is about the terror of knowing what's to come. For Larry, the terror is the opposite. It's the certainty that nothing will ever change. He doesn't need a psychic banana to tell him his future. His future is his past, on a loop. It's another shift, another customer, another disaster. The ultimate horror for him is not the unknown, but the profound, crushing certainty of the known. He is a man without a future, because his future is just an endless repetition of his present. So, as we fade to black on this analysis, the image of Larry remains. Not as a hero, not as a villain, not even as a side character, but as a symbol of the thankless, invisible labour that holds our own world together. A symbol of the quiet desperation of a life spent in service of others. A symbol of the resilience of a man who faces the apocalypse every single day and still manages to ask, will that be cash or credit? He is the tragedy at the heart of the comedy, the straight line in a world of squiggles, the one character in Elmore whose problems are all too real. Consider the sheer atmospheric pressure of his life. In The Rival, we see a flashback to Aeneas's birth, a chaotic, high-stress event. The family's in a rush, screaming, panicking. This is the baseline emotional state of the Watterson family. Larry has to deal with this level of intensity not just on special occasions, but every time they come to one of his stores. He's a man living in a permanent state of someone else's emergency. The constant adrenaline and stress must be taking a phenomenal toll on his health, which explains why he's on the verge of a heart attack if he misses his 5-minute break. In The Lady, Richard, feeling lonely, creates a female alter ego named Samantha to make friends. This leads to a series of comedic misunderstandings. But where does he get the makeup, the perfume, the jewellery for his disguise? From a store where Larry has to ring him up. Larry has to be the non-judgmental cashier for a large pink rabbit buying lipstick and a wig. He is the silent enabler of the town's most bizarre identity crises, all because his job requires him to not ask questions and just scan the barcode. Let's look at the sucker. Darwin, in his naivete, gets roped into a gang of delinquents led by Julius. The episode is about innocence being corrupted. Larry is the opposite of this. He's a man who has lost his innocence not through crime, but through the endless, grinding reality of his work. He has seen the worst of people, not in back alleys, but over the counter of a convenience store. He is a man whose optimism has been systematically dismantled by 1,000 tiny cuts, 1,000 rude customers, 1,000 impossible demands. He is what happens when innocence is not corrupted, but simply eroded over time, and the stink provides another angle. Mr. Small, horrified by his own carbon footprint, retreats to the woods to live a life free from civilization. He fails, of course, because nature is brutal. Larry cannot retreat. He has no woods to escape to. He is the civilization that Mr. Small is running from. He is the embodiment of the system, the concrete, the commerce, the very things that cause the existential guilt. He is trapped on the other side of the equation, a man who cannot escape his own footprint because his footprint is the entire economic foundation of the town. The episode The Ad is another perfect encapsulation of his world. The Watterson scam a pair of tourists to make money. It's a story about desperation and the absurdity of the gig economy. But Larry lives this every day. His life is a series of short-term gigs, a patchwork of part-time jobs that barely keep him afloat. The Wattersons' weekend of scamming is his entire career. He is a man who has to constantly hustle, constantly adapt, constantly find a new way to make a buck in a world that is designed to take it all away from him. And in The Ghouls on Halloween, the ghouls of Elmore are upset that no one is scared of them anymore. They've had to take on menial jobs like being masseuses. This is a supernatural version of Larry's plight. They are powerful, ancient beings who have been reduced to service work by the apathy of the modern world. They are a mirror to Larry, a reflection of his own fall from a state of potential freedom, lazy Larry, to a state of eternal, thankless labour. Even the ghosts in Elmore have to deal with the horrors of the job market. The final piece of the puzzle is the awareness. The episode is about Green Week at school, and Gumball's complete ignorance of environmental issues. Larry is the ultimate recycler, but not by choice. In The Revolt, we see visions of objects being recycled, melted down, and reformed. This is what happens to Larry's spirit every single day. He's broken down by the end of his shift and then reformed, good as new, ready for the next one. He's in a perpetual state of being mentally and emotionally recycled, his old tired self melted down to make a fresh, new employee for the morning shift. It is a cycle of renewal that is in itself a form of damnation. So what is left to say? The evidence is overwhelming. The case is closed. Larry Needlemeyer is not just a character, he's a complex, multi-layered tragedy, a walking, working monument to the quiet suffering that underpins our own chaotic world. His story is a dark, existential epic, told in 30-second increments across dozens of different jobs. But we've only been looking at the direct consequences, the moments where Larry is the explicit target. Let's peel back one final horrifying layer and talk about his role as the town's unwilling first responder and the supplier of his own misery. Let's talk about infrastructural suffering. In the Colossus, Hector the Giant, goaded by Gumball, goes on a destructive rampage through Elmore. He smashes buildings, tears up roads, and flattens the Robinsons' house. This is treated as a force of nature, an internal emotional storm with external consequences. But here's the thing about consequences. Someone has to clean them up. Who do you think has to repair the power lines Hector snaps? Who has to restock the shelves of the grocery store he steps on? Who has to process the insurance claim for the Robinsons' now two-dimensional home? Larry. He is the Federal Emergency Management Agency of Elmore, but he's a one-man team with no federal funding. Every time a character's personal emotional crisis results in large-scale property damage, it is Larry who, off-screen, has to sweep up the rubble, restock the inventory, and file the paperwork. His life is an endless series of disaster recovery projects for disasters he had no hand in creating. But here's where the tragedy deepens into a truly dark Ouroboran irony. He's not just the cleaner, he is the supplier of the chaos. In the phone, Darwin develops a crippling addiction to his new cell phone. This addiction leads to a series of terrible decisions culminating in a pixelated Space Invader-style street battle with Ocho. But where did the phone come from? Who sold it to them? In a town where one man works every retail job, the answer is inevitably Larry. He is the merchant of the very addictions that will later manifest as violent, property-destroying rampages. This isn't an isolated case. He is trapped in a state of inescapable complicity. He sells Richard the impossibly unhealthy junk food that fuels his life-threatening laziness and brain-melting stupidity. He rents the Wattersons the movies they will inevitably scratch, lose or destroy, setting him up for a future confrontation over late fees. He sells Gumball the bizarre miscellaneous items that will become the core components of his next disastrous scheme. He is the unwitting quartermaster for an army of chaos, and his only payment is the cents on the dollar profit from the sale of the very weapons that will be used to figuratively, and sometimes literally, burn his world to the ground. He is forced to sell the bullets that will eventually be fired at him, all for a paycheck that barely covers his rent. And it's not just the big apocalyptic events. He is the silent, long-suffering stage for their most trivial adolescent dramas. In The Knights, Gumball and Tobias engage in a ridiculous duel with brooms and trash can lids over who gets to be Penny's project partner. It's a pathetic display of middle school machismo. But where does it take place? In a public street, in front of the manicured lawns of suburbia. Who has to sweep up the broken broom bristles? Who has to witness this embarrassing spectacle and pretend it's normal? Larry, on his mail route, or while cleaning the street. His life is the silent, exasperated audience for the cringe-worthy theatre of everyone else's personal lives. He is the background, and the background is always getting splattered with the paint of their emotional outbursts. This suffering is enabled by the entire town's underlying philosophy, a philosophy laid bare in The Fridge. Nicole becomes obsessed with a reach for the stars chart, creating a toxic, competitive environment in her own home. The episode is a satire of helicopter parenting and the obsession with achievement, but it reveals a core truth of Elmore. It is a world of winners and losers. For Gumball to be a winner, for him to reach the sun row on the chart, someone else has to be on the rainy cloud row. On a macro scale, Larry is the town's designated loser. He's the bottom of the chart. His perpetual failure, his constant struggle, is a structural necessity that allows the town's more successful residents to feel good about themselves. He is the rainy cloud that allows them to feel like a sunny day. His poverty and exhaustion are the dark background against which their bright, colourful lives can be seen. And the world he inhabits is not just cruel. It is dangerously, profoundly incompetent. In The Remote, a simple family argument over the TV remote results in the Wattersons using a garage door opener to repeatedly smash their neighbour Gary's brand new car. Larry has to live and work in a world where a minor domestic dispute can and does result in thousands of dollars of random property damage. He has to know that the very air he breathes is thick with the potential for sudden, nonsensical destruction. There is no safe space. The chaos that destroys his workplaces is the same chaos that is happening 2 feet away from his own home. A home we've seen he can lose at a moment's notice. So we are left with a man who is not just a victim, but an active, if unwilling, participant in the system that oppresses him. He's the first responder to disasters he is forced to supply. He is the designated loser in a town obsessed with winning. He is the only sane man in an asylum, and his job is to sell the other inmates their straitjackets. He's trapped in a perfect self-sustaining feedback loop of destruction and labour, a snake eating its own tail for minimum wage. He's not a man having a bad day. He is the bad day, happening to himself and to everyone else, forever. Let's take this to its logical, grim conclusion. We need to talk about his role in episodes that are purely about psychological horror, because he is the anchor that makes them so unsettling. In the downer, Gumball's bad mood becomes so powerful that he wishes everyone away, and they disappear. He's left alone in a silent, empty Elmore. This is a terrifying existential crisis. But who is the first person he would have interacted with that morning? The bus driver, the crossing guard, the man at the convenience store, Larry. Gumball's apocalyptic loneliness begins with the erasure of Larry. He is the first to go because he is the most constant, the most ubiquitous presence. His absence is the first sign that the world is well and truly broken. In The Void, Mr. Small reveals that the universe of Elmore is flawed, and it makes mistakes, disappearing people and things that are deemed too boring or irrelevant. Molly the dinosaur is the primary victim in this episode. But who is more at risk of being deemed boring by a cruel, arbitrary universe than Larry? His entire existence is a monument to the mundane. He is a man perpetually on the verge of being erased by a universe that has no appreciation for the quiet heroism of showing up for work. The fact that he hasn't been sent to the void is a miracle, and it probably only hasn't happened because his existence is too structurally important to be deemed a mistake. He is too necessary to be erased, which is the cruelest twist of all. He is doomed to be remembered because his memory is tied to his function. And what about the episode The Blame, where Felicity Parham, in a fit of moral panic, gets video games banned? This triggers a town-wide debate on censorship and the influence of media. Larry is the one who has to enforce this. He has to take the video games off the shelves of Ripley 2000. He has to be the one to tell the children that they can no longer purchase the things they love. He is forced to become an agent of censorship, a foot soldier in Felicity's culture war, all because his job requires him to follow the rules, no matter how ludicrous those rules become. He is a man without ideology, forced to enact the ideologies of others. The final, and perhaps most subtle form of his torment is the complete lack of a personal narrative. Every other character, no matter how minor, gets an episode that explores their desires, their fears, their family life. We see Tobias's desperate need for coolness, We see Banana Joe's strange family. We see Hector's relationship with his mother. Larry gets the laziest and the pizza. But these are not episodes about him as a person. They are episodes about his function and his suffering. We never see him at home relaxing. We never hear about his hobbies, his passions. His life is a black box. The show deliberately denies us access to his humanity, forcing us to see him the way the other characters do, as a uniform, as a function, as a part of the scenery. And that is the ultimate horror. It's not the apocalypses, the kidnappings, or the physical abuse. It is the profound, soul-deep loneliness of being utterly, completely, and irrevocably unseen. He is a ghost in his own life, a man whose entire existence is a service provided to others, a service for which he is never thanked, never compensated, and never, ever recognised. He is the quiet, humming machinery in the basement of Elmore, the engine that powers the whole chaotic, colourful world. And like any machine, he is only ever noticed when he breaks down. But for Larry, breaking down is not an option, because if he stops, so does everything else. He is trapped, not in a job, but in a purpose, and that purpose is to suffer. Let's consider the episode The Promise. It's about the sanctity of a promise between Gumball and Darwin, a bond so strong that Darwin is willing to endure physical injury rather than break it. Larry's life is an unspoken promise to the town of Elmore, a promise to be there, to be open, to serve. And he keeps this promise every single day at great personal cost. But no one has made a promise to him. There is no social contract that protects him. His devotion is a one-way street. He gives his word, his labour, his very life force to the town, and in return, he gets nothing. He is the ultimate example of unrequited civic love. And in the castle, Richard's inability to say no allows the entire town to move into the Watterson house, creating a chaotic, anarchic commune. This is a world without rules, a world of pure indulgence. This is Larry's nightmare. His entire existence is predicated on rules, on procedures, on the idea that things have a price. A world where everything is free, where every impulse is acted upon, is a world where his function is meaningless. But even in this chaos, someone has to be providing the pizza that the hobos are ordering with Richard's stolen credit card. Even in anarchy, Larry is somehow still at work. The final, undeniable proof of his tragedy is that, after everything, he is still there. He could leave. He could move to another town, get a single, reasonable job, and live a quiet life. But he doesn't. Why? Because on some level, he knows. He knows that he is the linchpin. He knows that his departure would mean the end of the world he, for some reason, continues to serve. He is not just a victim. He is a martyr. He has chosen, on some deep subconscious level, to sacrifice his own happiness for the stability of a world that is not worth the price. He is the saddest, most heroic, and most deeply, profoundly broken character in the entire series, and he will be back tomorrow for another shift, because the world, for all its cruelty, needs him. So, as we finally, mercifully let the man rest, at least in our analysis, we are left with this one, haunting image. Larry Needlemeyer standing at a counter, a phone to his ear, a mop in his hand, a price scanner in the other, with a line of angry customers in front of him, and a burning building reflected in his tired, empty eyes. He is the beginning and the end of labour, the alpha and omega of the service industry, a man whose suffering is so vast and so constant that it has become the background radiation of his entire universe. He is not just a character, he is a condition, and it is a condition from which there is no escape.